You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, and exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, in Disney.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to our premiere program tonight. And I say premiere because I have to tell you, this program that Barbara Anderson is doing is called Barbara Anderson Watchtower Research. It tells all. This program is bringing more people into the six screens than any of the 17 different programs we have running right now. So I'm going to call it the premiere program here on Saturday night. Everyone loves to hear Barbara. She has so much to talk about. Now, tonight, when Barbara comes on, we're going to be talking about, well, she knew this Richard Wheelock, and he was a press supervisor at the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses in Brooklyn. And she wants to tell us something very tragic that happened. And she also wants to speak up about Brother Noor. Wait till you hear some of the things she knows about him. So we're going to bring Barbara in right now. So let's bring Barbara into the stream. Hello, Barbara Anderson.
Hey, Rick. Nice to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you with us, Barbara. There are so many people that, well, they're listening intently. They really, I put a good promo up this week, and man, I'll tell you, I keep my phone by my little table here next to my bed, and the little Facebook thing was dinging all night long. People writing me and looking forward to Barbara coming on. So that's good. Yeah.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. Although I really, really don't want to tell these stories. I haven't, most of the years since I left Bethel, I haven't done this. But I think it's time that people see that those at headquarters are no different than anyone else. We're all the same with our assets and deficits, but they hide theirs, and I don't think they should, because they try to impress people that they're different, that they have God's Holy Spirit, which makes them different. But they're really no different than anyone else. In fact, maybe because of the position they're in, they hide things, and most people don't live maybe two lives. But people at Bethel tend to hide their real person. And then when that real person comes out, it could cause a lot of difficulties. So we're going to talk about this, not to bring reproach on anybody, but just to show that that some of the things that are said in the literature make too much of people at headquarters or the organization. And they're not, as I said, all that special. We're very nice people at Bethel, just as there are everywhere. But then often there aren't.
Well, we talked about, you and I discussed things before we do the live programs here to see what's going to be talked about. But, one thing that impressed me when I talked to you this week about this coming program tonight, we talked about, for many years you focused on the child sexual abuse, and you work with so many people, and you've been on television programs, and newspapers have written up articles about you, but you never really had a chance to talk about some of the other things that you witnessed at Watchtower. It's just not all just sexual abuse. There's other oddities and peculiarities that take place in that organization. So this is a great place to talk about that. So I think we're going to hear some of that tonight, right?
Yes, we are.
All right. Well, let's start off. We talked about this man. He was the press supervisor. The head guy printing
the press room. Where all the big presses were on Adams Street.
And his name was Richard Wheelock. Now, tell us what you know about Richard, Barbara.
Okay. Richard's name became well known in 1990. And it was a sad way to get your name out there, that's for sure. And that wasn't his objective, no. But 32 years ago, in 1990, Richard walked out of the third floor at the tower's window. And he hit the ground and he was dead. His body was found a little bit ago. I sent you a copy of a newspaper article, Rick, that detailed his death. It was on the front page of the Brooklyn paper. So,
Yeah, I put that article up all over Facebook. People were reading it. So you know what you're saying here is it's right out of the newspaper article on what happened with Richard. So tell us a little bit about Richard. Tell us how you knew him.
okay. Actually, didn't know him very well. He wasn't a friendly person. He kept to himself. My husband knew him because my husband was in the press room from 1956 through 1959. And in 1959, he left. He signed up for 3 years back then. It was 4 years, or was 4 years. And then they brought it down to 1 year that you sign up for, and then they make a decision whether to keep you or not. So I sent you pictures of the press room. Did you put those up, Rick?
I did put some up earlier, but I'll get some up when we're talking here tonight. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because they're really phenomenal pictures. I've never seen anything quite like that in the literature. They were professional pictures because one of the Bethelites that was his thing. He was very creative, and as a sideline, he was trying to learn more and more about photography, and he was very, very professional there. I don't know how much longer he stayed at Bethel, but he took these pictures, and he also took one of my husband also, which was so much like an actual studio picture. So Richard, he was a quiet man. Joe said he was all business, and he came into Bethel, as far as I know. I don't really know his background. I don't know of anyone who's alive today that knows Rich's background. Perhaps Randy Waters might know, but we know him about him from the 1950s. And so the thing about Richard is that he was lonely, and he didn't make friends easily back then, but he was in love with one of the women at Bethel, who I would assume was a housekeeper when she came into Bethel. Her name was Michelle. And he had asked Michelle to marry him, but she wasn't interested. Sometimes I think that, I just wonder about Richard. From what I had heard, he was not as I say, even to Joe, when we saw him years later, he rarely smiled. And Michelle was, from what I gather, she was, there goes the picture, yes, with the plates for the hoe presses. They worked on the hoe press, is what it was called. And so he had asked Michelle to marry him, but she wasn't interested in him. So who she was interested in was Nathan Noor. And sometime in the 50s, she and Nathan were engaged. So the thing about Nathan in this case is that we're going to switch over here because this is the interesting part about this, which leads up to Richard's suicide. And so Nathan Noor and Michelle were engaged. And so that was it for Richard. Sometime in the 90s, in the 50s, there was a woman that came into Bethel. Her last name was Mock, Audrey Mock. She had a brother, a fleshy brother, that was in the factory, that worked in the factory. And I don't think of where he worked, but
Hey, Barbara, I'm going to intercept here 1 second. I'm going to try to get a little better sound quality here. But I'm going to try to get a little better. Are you close to your computer microphone, and can you move it closer to you? Is that possible?
That's about all I can do.
Well, okay, that's a little better right there. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. So here Nathan was engaged to Michelle. And when Audrey came into Bethel, I would assume that she came in as a housekeeper due to the fact that she had a brother there. And maybe he recommended her, I don't know. So of all things, but I don't know all the details of this. I just know what I know. And that was that Nathan Noor broke his engagement to Michelle, and he married Audrey. And so apparently they had a happy marriage. But this was quite shocking for the people who were at Bethel at the time. So anyway, the couple that we're talking about, Nathan Noor and Audrey, apparently had a good life together. And I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. So on the rebound, Richard Wheelock started paying a lot of attention to Michelle. And she married him. Now there's the Brooklyn paper with the headlines about he jumps to his death. Watchtower expect jumps to his death. That was shocking to the community. It was actually, when he went out the window, it wasn't on the street. I don't know if it was between buildings. So it was somebody in another building that got his phone. So why did he do this? Well, we're going back to Richard's personality. I can't help but wonder if he was bipolar. Of course, in the 50s, we hardly ever heard of anything like that. But he was a man that wasn't in your face at all. He was just laid back. So he and Michelle had a nice life. We came into Bethel at 82. And how we came into Bethel was because we came to visit our son who went into Bethel in 81. And then on Saturday, we stayed at Bethel. Parents can do that. For 3 days you can stay. And what happened was Saturday afternoon, we were going to leave. But at Saturday, we had lunch arrangements there. And Joe saw Richard after all those years from the 50s and here it was, I think March of 82. So they were, after we ate lunch, Joe went over to Richard and they were talking. And I was talking to Michelle. I didn't know her before, so I just was making conversation. And then Joe walked over to me and he said, uh, Richard went off to talk to someone in the service department. And I said, for what? He said, well, wait, well, you have to wait here. And I wondered why. And he said, well, Richard wants to talk to them about my record. I didn't understand what was going on until a few minutes later. It was explained that Joe had teasingly said to Richard, you don't need any old folk here, do you? Well, Joe was only 48 at the time. So Richard said, what do you do? And Joe said, I'm a plumber. And Richard said, well, we might be able to use you. And Joe said he didn't know what to say because he was half serious and half making a joke. So then Richard came back and he had called the service department and they checked his record, Joe's record, and saw how active he was in the organization. So then they set up 2 appointments. I think I talked about this before. So we had appointments to come into Bethel. That was really all I knew of Richard back then. So when they accepted us and we went into Bethel, I'd see Richard and Michelle around. She was very friendly. Everybody called her Mike. So it was not that long. I don't know, maybe 3-4 years. I'm really not sure on the dates because I never really expected to be talking about this. And so maybe 4 years, 5 years. They were on a trip to Italy, and they were coming down a flight of stairs from a museum, and it was a marble staircase. And what happened was she kind of stumbled, and he reached out to grab her, and I think it was he stumbled, and she reached out to grab him. So she saved him from falling, but she fell. That's the way it was. And she was in the hospital in Italy for a month. She had a pre-existing condition, some type of a blood disease that they kept under control with medication. But the kind of medication she was given so much of in Italy caused the problem to accelerate. And when she was stable enough, they sent her back to Brooklyn. I think she was gone a month. And when she came back, she died within a few weeks. So he was absolutely bereft of it was so tragic for him, and he never was the same. So he became very depressed and couldn't work anymore. So my son was in the press room when he went into Bethel. So he was actually working just where his father was working many years before, had the same place to store his personal effects and everything. So it was quite a coincidence. And so we didn't know how serious this depression was for Richard until we would go to see someone on the infirmary floor. It was the 3rd floor of the Towers building. It's where the makeshift sort of hospital for Bethel was. And Richard would stand at the door, and he would just stand at the door during the day, and he would just stare at people walking by. That's when we realized that he was in depression. And this situation was so sad. It was he went from bad to worse with this, and that's why in 1990 he stepped out of the window, as the newspaper says. He didn't throw himself out the window. They said he stepped out. Well, there were big windows in the towers too. So in our rooms, and I don't know. It was very sad. But the doctor explained to me, one of the doctors, he explained to me when we were chatting about something else, and it came up because it had happened just a few weeks before.
Hey, Barbara, what I'm going to do, Barbara, is I'm going to read to the audience here. I'm going to read the newspaper article.
Okay.
So they can kind of get a feel for what was actually written in the newspaper. Now, this is concerning a high, well, he was in the press room. He was a supervisor.
He was the supervisor. He was directly under Max Larson, who ran the factories.
Yeah, so he was a pretty big wig at the Watchtower. So the article here, and it's 1990, and it has to do with Watchtower executive jumps to his death. Now, I never read that. I was in the so-called truth in the 1990s, but, I missed this, and I'm sure many witnesses in New York missed it as well. But it says that he walks out of the third floor window in Brooklyn Heights. So a high-ranking Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, I'm reading it verbatim right from the paper, a high-ranking Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, Jehovah's Witness, printing press supervisor, jumped to his death from the third floor window of the Society's Brooklyn Heights Infirmary on Wednesday, July 25th, around, that would have been 1990, around 3:30 p.m., police said. So, okay, so those in the afternoon, Richard Wheelock, that's the man that Barbara's talking about here. He was 75 years old. He died instantly from multiple blunt impact injuries, said City Medical Examiner's Office spokesman Ellen Borokoff. His death was classified as suicide. So there wasn't anything other than suicide, police said. So the Watchtower officials said Wheelock was suffering from severe depression, like you are mentioning to us here tonight, Barbara. He was under doctor's care for the past several years in the Society's infirmary at 79 Willow Street between Clark and Pineapple Heights. He apparently became increasingly despondent after the death of his wife.
Exactly.
So just like you were talking, 5 years ago, the Watchtower officials said. So let's scroll down here a little bit more. He had mental problems and suffered from severe depression spells, said George Couch.
Yes, George Couch is the home overseer at the time. All the homes that were in the complex for 4,000 people, George was in charge of them.
Yeah. So Couch, who was a good friend of Wheelock's,
yes.
He said Wheelock's had never mentioned suicide to him, though Couch noticed that Wheelock's problems worsened after his wife died in 1985. What I want to do now, I want to go back on the trail and pick some crumbs up, Barbara, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I just want all of our audience to totally get what's being said here tonight. I know you have so many things you want to share with us, so I'm going to reel it all in. So I'm just going to kind of go back a little bit. Now, I'm going to bring President Knorr, in because he was the president at the time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so President Knorr, as you were saying, was engaged to this woman. Michelle was her name. They called her Mike.
Michelle, yes. Uh-huh.
So they called her Mike. So she was engaged to President Knorr. President Knorr wanted to. Well, he actually disengaged. He didn't want to stay.
That's right. Uh-huh.
So
that's really where the story begins with Nor for that we're going to discuss tonight. The story with Wheelock is quite clear, and he, depression after a spouse dies sets in for many people, and the doctor says, "Well, that's why you're never encouraged to marry again." After a beloved spouse dies, you wait a year.
Well,
Wait a year, they say. Well,
we're going to get right into that now. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here. I want
right.
the audience to be able to follow it. So let's just stay with this. Brother Noor, he broke the engagement with Michelle. How was it that Michelle became attracted to Richard Wheelock? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, he started to show her a lot of attention. And you know how she must have felt, because she was engaged to the president of the organization. And I mean, what greater happiness would a woman have, I think. He was personable, and then she's thrown asunder. So, you know, sometimes you do that. You make a decision because you're so traumatized by what happened to you, and so somebody else comes along and you make a decision to marry them because you're so insulted. Maybe you feel so worthless because of what was done to you. So, but she knew Richard before, but she saw his idiosyncrasies, and maybe it was a good thing that it happened. I have no idea, because they seem to be happy, Richard and Michelle. So that's one story. We got another story coming out of this that you're going to touch on.
Okay, so this is all. I just want the audience to be able to wrap everything together here. So Michelle, after being disengaged from Brother Noor, comes along and falls in love with Richard. Now, Richard and her went away, I believe you said, to Italy.
Yeah,
and,
years later.
And then they somehow they were falling down the stairs. She was holding on to Richard, and she really banged herself up pretty badly. And then in time died because maybe because of the bruises. Do I have that right?
Yeah, but like I said, she had a pre-existing condition, and I know, but from what the doctor said, that the medication.
Can I ask one thing?
Causes.
Can I ask one thing?
Go ahead, Zach. Yeah.
Yeah, I've told this many times that he died because his wife he was depressed because his wife died, and they were on vacation. But I thought that there was another thing. I thought that it was her hip. Was there anything to do with her hip? She broke her hip or something?
She could have. I did not hear that. You know, they all confidential type of thing.
The reason I say it is I used to be with the Larsons. I was in their congregation, and so we would go to the Kingdom Hall. I would sit in the front seat with them many of the nights because there were 6 people in the car. But when this happened, I always seemed to get a little bit of an update. You know, they were on vacation and she had broken her hip. And later on, I did find out that one of the things that depressed him so much, and this I heard from another Bethelite, was that he was the one falling and kind of
Yes, that's right.
Her to fall. I saw you say that. Yes.
Yeah. So I had it mixed up. I had to switch it around.
That's okay. But there's another thing. It has to do with his position. You mentioned him being the press room overseer or something. I thought as long as I was there, I came in the mid 80s and I used to see the Wheelocks together. He was the assistant factory overseer, I thought, under Matt Larson, who was the factory overseer.
That's right. Well, I'm talking about it from my husband. When my husband was there in the 50s, Richard was over the press room floor. Later on, in the 80s, when we were visiting, Richard was, as you say, assisted to larceny, I suppose. You know, the factory was not my thing. I was an office person. So I'm glad
you're in the factory.
This out. I'm glad.
There's a period of time. There's also an important period of time between when his wife died, and the time that he was in the infirmary.
5 years. He was there 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, I witnessed something. I witnessed it, and other brothers witnessed it. Brother Wheelock, who had been the assistant factory overseer, his depression must have been so great that they put him in the commissary, and he was doing things like breaking up boxes, breaking down boxes. So they moved him apparently from the factory as the factory overseer. They put him in the commissary. There's another older brother there who used to rack hangers. These were brothers who I guess, yeah. Do you remember him? He wore the paper hat. Yeah. And Brother Wheelock worked in that same area, but I think in the commissary. He had gone from being the assistant factory overseer to actually breaking up boxes in the commissary. And then, of course, he ended up in the infirmary, as you said.
Because this was not really part of our life, so you'd hear this, but you know, the people who were overseers, they had a separate life than ordinary Bethelites. So, and you really didn't talk about them if you weren't a personal friend, and I wasn't. But what I'm talking about is an overview of the situation, and I'm glad to hear you add to it, because
yes.
And I had no idea. Maybe years ago I would have known that she broke her hip, but I didn't recall that at all. Now, all I remember being told was about the blood condition, that's why she died, because of this situation that she had, which makes no difference, does it? It makes a difference that Richard was absolutely thunderstruck over this whole thing. When we saw him, he was in the reason I know this is in the infirmary. His room was right across the hall from Arthur Worsley's room, and Arthur, as in his 80s, he was on the infirmary floor permanently because of his age, and he also had a cancer, pancreatic cancer, a number of years before, so they watched him very carefully. And we used to go to his room on Monday night when they would have the Watchtower study for the Bethelites at Bethel, and we would go to Arthur's room, what was right across the hall from Wheelock, and he would always be standing at the door. He didn't know anybody. He just stood there and stared, tried to talk to him because he was responsible for us coming to Bethel, but he didn't even know us then. So
something about the timeline too. I did love to hear Arthur Worsley. I loved his voice.
Yeah.
It was kind of comical. Now, there's another thing about
Zach,
the timeline.
Zach, we're gonna cut in here. I know you have a lot of feelings about it.
No, this is about what you're talking about, because I think that the timeline with Brother Noor, I think you need to clarify when Brother Noor died and when brother and sister Wheelock were together, or when she died. Because I thought Brother Noor died. Didn't he die like in the late 70s?
77.
I mean in the year
1977.
Yeah. And so there was a period of time when he was not even around when this happened with Sister Wheelock.
Oh, well, that's true. Correct? That's true.
Yes. Just clarifying the timeline for
that's good.
Okay, that was all I had to say.
All right. Oh, very good, Jack. I mean, what we want to do here is we're going to zero right in here. We're trying to really get understanding.
Okay.
I'm trying to extract, Barbara. I'm trying to extract. Why would we even bring this up? I mean,
yeah, that's a very big reason here. But I got to add one thing. I wrote this down specially, and we had to bring it. Nor married Audrey Mock January 31st, 1953. So Nor had been engaged to Michelle in the early 50s. Okay, so that's part of our story here. And the story is about Richard Wheelock, of course. And we want to be as accurate as we can. And I certainly don't know a lot about it, but I know he didn't kill himself over child abuse, as someone asked me recently.
All right. Well, what we're trying to do here, I mean, this has always been when I get on the different forums, and it's even brought up here on the 6 screens years ago. The man that jumped to his death at the Watchtower. Now we do understand what his name is. We're making it clear here tonight. But the reason that it really fascinates me, and the reason why I think many people are listening in here tonight, and it fascinates them, is here we have a man that was a pretty much of an official of the Watchtower suffering from depression. Now, the Watchtower has always said, when you're a witness, you're the happiest person in the world. And, everyone else can deal with grief. People die. We all have friends, relatives, wives, spouses that die, and we're able to deal with that. But I'm wondering why Richard, now, I mean, we don't know what was going on in his head, but, the Watchtower, they're not too keen on putting information like this out. But even Jehovah's Witnesses, Barbara, and I think you'll agree, I think Zachary will agree, even Jehovah's Witnesses get depressed, right?
Yeah, well, I could say that I've known plenty of people with depression, whether they're witnesses or not witnesses.
Right. But when one's a Jehovah's Witness, they're not supposed to. But I'm not in any way, I feel bad for Richard Wheelock. I did not know the man, but I feel bad. I'm sure he felt so bad about his wife. But most witnesses would be able to brush it off to some degree that, well, we'll see. I'll see my wife again on the news system and what have you. Yeah.
See, the doctor explained that. He said most people, when they lose somebody they love, a spouse, they go downhill. But after a year, the normal thing is you go back up and join society again and make a place for yourself. But Richard couldn't. He said he hit rock bottom and he stayed there. And he said, that's what you saw in the infirmary. Well, as I tried to say, Richard had a background of this part of his personality. That's why I mentioned bipolar. I have no idea if that fits. It's just that these are the illnesses of humans. And he was probably predisposed to depression, and losing the love of his life, he couldn't cope with it. And many people can't. And so there's nothing, I'm not saying anything negative about him as a person, but so many people have speculated, why would he kill himself? He's one of the chosen people to run the headquarters, and God's Holy Spirit is with him. And how could he do that? No. They're just as normal and have the idiosyncrasies that we all have. So it was due to grief. And maybe if she didn't have this happen to him, they would have lived to 80s, 90s, who knows? And maybe we'd been had died from grief years later. Who's to say?
Well,
So
we don't really know. Now, what's of interest though, Barbara? When you and I talked this week, and it's not a good thing to have a man die like that. It really isn't. And obviously, he had some difficulty dealing with things. But the reason why I'm thinking this is of interest is Brother Noor, who was the president of the Watchtower at the time, he was involved in really chastising brothers for disengaging from their engagement. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely, it's correct.
So what I'm trying to put pieces of the puzzle here together. I'm trying to pick crumbs up on the trail. So what we have here is Brother Noor. I'm not going to say he's responsible for this, but obviously he caused a lot of turmoil in Richard's life because of all of this. I would think. I'm not sure, but I would think. But let's just go with this. So Brother Noor came up with this mandate or this Watchtower policy, ordinance, whatever you want to call it.
Or
That,
maybe somebody after him did, you know?
yeah.
We don't
So,
know who did it, but maybe this was the reason why they did it.
yeah. So Brother Noor was the one that instituted this idea of if you break an engagement off, you could be in trouble in the Watchtower. Is that correct?
As I said, it could have been after Noor, or we know for a fact that if you were at Bethel and you broke an engagement, you're engaged to if you're a guy, you're engaged to a girl outside of Bethel, you want to bring her in. It doesn't matter whether you want to bring her in or not. If you break off engagement, they think that you're very mature, and they ask you to leave Bethel. That was the whole deal. Now,
Yeah.
nobody could ask Noor to leave Bethel when he did this to Michelle, and yet it was a standard practice. And I'm going to add to it in a minute. What happened to certain people?
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you this. I mean, in talking to you this week as we go over things for the programs, I find it very fascinating, Barbara, some of the things that you share with me. But just focusing now on, we know about Wheelock. We know that he did jump out of the building. It's written in the Brooklyn paper. It's a known fact that he was suffering from depression and he did commit suicide. So let's move on now to Brother Noor. It's very fascinating to me that this man had a lot of power in the Watchtower. But he was he. Let me put it this way to you: he was a good speaker. He wasn't. I mean, the governing body today can't even hold a candle to Brother Noor in France. They can't. But Brother Noor was a good speaker. There's no doubt about it. But you're saying that he had kind of a background about him that wasn't too favorable. Would you say that?
Well, Noor was kind of a contrary personality. And I know when I said this once before that, he was known for insulting people. He was very hard on the young men at Bethel. Also, he had a strange proclivities that were some of the older people who went into Bethel, well, they're old now. When they went into Bethel, you have a new boy talk. And that means, most of the ones that go in are boys. So before they're, back then, they could be 16, 17, 18 going into Bethel. So they, on the first Monday after the Watchtower study, they would have a new boy talk for those that came in that particular week. And Noor was very emphatic about behavior. And, he was not the most well-educated individual. That's for sure. He barely made it out of high school. And I know that because of Covington making that statement. Covington said that Noor was not that smart. Covington said that Noor was behind this business of lack of don't go to higher education. He wasn't enthusiastic about that, and that was Covington said it was Noor who was responsible because he didn't appreciate a higher education. So he had his idiosyncrasies, and some of them are very strange. So I heard this from a number of people, including my husband. And in that New Boy talk, he would get on issues to do with sex, warning the boys about being moral. And he would touch on things that were quite, I think, not the way to talk to young men. And he was so afraid, and some of this also has to do with masturbation. In fact, one of the writers in the writing department, a senior writer, said to me that he 100% disagreed with the society's policy on masturbation. And he had been, he came in as a young man. He heard Nor and what Nor had to say about this kind of thing. I went a little bit overboard. I don't want to get too graphic, but Nor he was different. Now, as far as Audrey goes, has been statements made years ago to me that they lived a celibate life.
Well, let's just first of all, who just for the audience, I know who Audrey was, but tell the audience who Audrey was, Barbara.
Well, she was a housekeeper, and she came in. She was very, very attractive, and Nor fell for her. But remember, Nor is older than most of these men who were had these high positions at Bethel. They were single for a long time. They married late. I was discussing this the other day with an ex-Bethelite. He absolutely agreed. That they married after the bloom of youth. So Nor did too. And but he seemed to be happy. Now, one day I was going through some desks when I was doing the Proclaimers book. I could go into any offices and ask to see documents or whatever. It was just okay for me to do this. And there was a place that I heard about in the storage in what became it was one of the Squid buildings, but it became the 30 building, and that's where our office, the engineering's office, was in that building. And there was a storage area, and they put desks and stuff that weren't used. Someone told me that there were desks there that had a lot of papers in them. Apparently, when they moved them from the 124 building, it must have been Nor's desk of some sort, because it was full of paperwork. And I went through the stuff. There were pictures galore in there, and there were postcards. And when Nor was traveling, back then the society had money problems. The wives didn't go with them when men went on tour, with Nor and Franz and the others. And so he would send his wife a postcard. And it was a whole dozen or so of those postcards in this one drawer of this desk. And they were very, very loving and kind, and he would write her. And so when you see that, you assume that they had a very happy marriage. And I do say that they did. Whatever the rumor was about them, like I said, he was older anyway. And he was unusual. And the business on this engagement thing, well, he broke that engagement, but it started after that. Anybody who broke an engagement would have to leave Bethel. So this put a lot of pressure on young men. And there was a couple in Bethel. If I mentioned their name, everybody would know, but I'm not. He was the banker for the Watchtower. He was in the press room when my husband was there. When we went back to Bethel in the 80s, he was not in the restroom. He was with the Treasury. He was the banker. They had 9 banks. He told me that he daily he would head to Manhattan and do society's banking. So his wife died. He was in his, I'd say he was in his, let's see, Joe was 48 when we went to Bethel. And so I would say he might have been in 50 or maybe 55. And his wife died of cancer. So one day I was in the Treasury offices, and I walked by his office, and he saw me, told me, motioned for me to come in, and he said, I want to show you something. And this guy gave talks. Once a month, if you're a Bethel elder, you have to go out of town within a 200-mile radius and give a talk. And these people, congregations around within that 200-mile radius, they know they can get a Bethel speaker. So he was all on the go, and on the weekend, which he didn't mind because he was a widow, and so he pulled out one of the file cabinet drawers in his office, and he showed me all of these files, and he said, "You never guess what this is," and of course, I couldn't. And he said, "Let me tell you, every time I give a talk somewhere, especially if it was at assemblies or places like that," and he was sent off as an assembly speaker. He said, "The women want to marry a brother, and I'm single." And he says, "I get letters and letters and letters from women that I meet at the congregations or at the assemblies." And so he was a nice man. He was an attractive man. And many of the sisters would have loved to have come to Bethel and marry someone like him. But what happened to him was this. And I know what this was, because at our table, assigned to our table, was a young man. And his aunt who had 2 children, was corresponding with this fella. We'll call him Bob. She was corresponding with Bob. And Bob, the letters, he appreciated, he liked her very much, but she had 2 children. They were not adults. And so there was, but nice letters going back and forth. Well, he really admired her, but he also went to Florida, and he gave a talk in South Florida. When he did, he met another woman, and she was available, single, she had no children, and was pioneering. And so they had a correspondence, and he asked her to marry him within time. And so they were a twosome but the other woman, the boy that was sitting at our table, told us that his aunt considered herself engaged to him, and he broke it off. She wrote a letter and complained to the governing body, and this Bob had been at Bethel for so many, many years, from the 50s, and here it was into around 89, 90, somewhere like that. And he had to leave Bethel because he broke off. The woman with the children said he figured he was engaged to her. And there was nothing he could say, because she sent a copy of a letter. And apparently he was a bit romantic in this. I have no idea. The thing is, he had to leave Bethel over this situation. Any Bethelite can tell you that. including our own son, who became engaged at Bethel when he was at Bethel. It was a very lovely girl. My husband and I had studied with her grandparents when her father and her uncle were little boys. And they grew up, married, and had children of their own. And the one boy that was little when we studied with his grandfather, his father, he had a girl. She was about 19 and absolutely lovely, lovely girl. And our son was just absolutely smitten with her. So they were making plans, and my son wanted to stay at Bethel, and she was enthused about coming to Bethel. But as time went on, her mother was not that interested in his losing her daughter to Bethel. And the girl told my son after a number of months that she didn't want to come to Bethel. And they were engaged. And so my son knew the rules. And he knew that if he broke it off, he had to leave Bethel. Well, he wanted her to come to Bethel. Bethel was his life. He was there 16 years totally. But he married a few years later anyway. The thing is that our son didn't leave Bethel because the girl broke it off. When my son kept talking about, oh, how wonderful it'll be when you come to Bethel. Oh, you'll change your mind. You'll come. And then she realized that it wouldn't work out, and she broke the engagement. That was okay. So our son was able to stay at Bethel. But now here we are about Bob. He is a man who's been at Bethel all those years, and he was punished for apparently breaking off an engagement. And so my husband and I, after we left Bethel, and we went to see him and his wife in South Florida, and we had a lovely visit. He was very sad about leaving Bethel, and we talked openly about this. This was after we had left a few years before, and the reason why he was so sad was because that was home, and then he had to get a job, and the only job, and he was already in his, I think he was over in his 60s at the time. He was washing windows for a witness who had a window washing business, and these were high-rise buildings. He was washing windows at his age. He didn't know anything. He had no trade other than he was a society's banker, and certainly fixing and working on printing presses. Nobody had printing presses like they had at Bethel when he was young. Everybody's into full-color printing. No whole press was in existence. He didn't know what would happen. When he made this decision to get himself engaged the second time, which was foolish, but I don't mean to sound critical. He was a very fine man. He was a very lonely man. And he had a wonderful life at Bethel for many, many years. She came in, his deceased wife came into Bethel in the 50s. And she died I believe it was in the 90s. And early 90s, late 80s. So why wasn't Noah punished for breaking an engagement? I have to say, I have no idea, but he did it. And so did it cause such problems that the men who took his position, they punished others for doing this type of thing? I have no idea, but I
Well,
do.
Barbara, what we're going to do, we're going to reel you back in here now. I don't want you to get too far out there. I want the audience to stay connected.
Well,
So,
didn't you say, Rick? Didn't you say in the congregation that there were problems about the very same thing?
oh,
Didn't you
yeah.
tell me that?
Well, oh, yeah. So what we've got here, let's just recap things that are going on here. Now, your son, who doesn't speak to you to this day, is he still a Bethelite now?
Oh, no.
No.
He married and stayed, I think, 3 or 4 more years with his wife that he married. Oh, by the way, the girl that he was engaged to, as she got a little older, into her 20s, she went to nursing school, and she married a very fine fella, and both of them came to Bethel. And years later, when she was more mature, and it worked out fine in our case. It wasn't a big problem. In many cases, it is a big problem.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. So I just want to bring us back in. I'm going to reel us all in because we have so much to talk about. But I want to get into Noor again. I want to talk about him. Obviously, being a president of the Watchtower is a pretty big deal. But some of these guys have kind of run a little renegade at times. Now, Noor, I'm going to ask you a question. We talked about it the other day, and you can kind of be inhibited to, if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. But do you think that he was a homosexual?
I have no idea for definite. I only know what the older folk at Bethel would allude to, that these men, where the testosterone was going, when they're young, they're single. And there was this one circumstance. It's a picture. I think it's in the Proclaimer's book, and it's Noor, and around him are seated his assistants. And one of the older Bethelites said to me, "Isn't it odd how Noor surrounded himself with tall, good-looking men?" It was odd, and I reflected on that, But now I know he was happy with his wife, but there again, the majority of those men who led the organization from the 40s after Rutherford died. They would stay single, and but I don't know whether any of them were gay or not. But being gay and coming to Bethel was a problem at headquarters, and no doubt, no way can you get around that one. Always there was rumors about those that were asked to leave. What can I say?
Well, no, we don't know for sure, but it's a possibility. But let's get back on the trail again. I know last week, and I'm going to bring it up again. Your mother, who is not with you any longer, and she was at one time a witness, but she had a lot of doubts about it. But was she impressed? Why don't you give that story again? When you were a young girl and you used to go to Bethel before you really got totally engaged with them.
Well, the first time I ever was.
Yeah, what did your mother think of President Noor?
Well, she told me when she was in her 80s that she didn't want to continue, and I was so I was 14, and when we had our first lunch at Bethel, and when Noor had those 7 or so young men up there standing there along the wall after we all ate and were told to sit down, and we had to listen to him embarrass them. Well, they were foolish because they did attend a party and they drank too much. But the way he handled it was awful. And my mother said that she didn't want to be part of the religion, but she she didn't know what to do because I was so involved in it. And I said, why didn't you forbid me? She said, because you would have ran away and the witnesses would have taken you. She said, but I forgot all about that. But it was so embarrassing. But nor was that way. I I know that he and Audrey and the Larsons, they would go to the Rainbow Room and dancing. She would have an evening gown on. He would have a tuxedo. Same with Larsons, and they did that periodically. So they had a good life. They, you know, the way it is in this organization in the past 20 years, it's a very difficult to be single in this organization and dating. Some of the kids, they have to have, all of them have to have a chaperone. We didn't have to have a chaperone back in those years. That wasn't required. My whole attitude is this organization has really screwed themselves up for getting so involved in requiring what people do with their private lives. And it has caused nothing but misery. If they don't agree with your private life, something you do in your private life, you could get disfellowship for it. You get shunned for it. Then you find out that some of them did the very same things and they get away with it. It's not fair, and it is ridiculous to think that an organization, a religion, should control people's private lives, and that this is one of the reasons why this organization is always has been like a revolving door. That people come in and they leave, come in and leave. It's been like that for years, and it is because when you're in it and you find out that they own you, if you don't perform the right way and do the right things that they tell you to, and they change their mind on this or on that, people can't live like that. Then they walk away.
No, they can't. They can't live like that at all. Now, Barbara, when you and I were talking, and we talked before these programs, we were talking about Noor. And of course, he was instrumental. I mean, back when he was involved with the Watchtower back in the 80s and 90s, he really made a difference. He had a lot of people that really followed him and big time at the conventions. People loved him. But what I wanted to bring up here is you did bring up something that really struck my fancy, and it had to do with wife swapping. Now, I know that has always been an issue with the Watchtower. There's always been a problem. So you do say that when Noor was president of the Watchtower, there was wife swapping that was taking place in Bethel. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the reason for the big push for disfellowshipping. Noor was given a talk around the country. I don't know how many places but the one congregation in California where he spoke, one of the people who attended was a man who was a servant in the congregation, and he made notes. So I have a copy of those notes. It was 1951, December 1st, 1951. And the whole talk was on disfellowshipping. Well, he was preparing people for this disfellowshipping because March 1st, 1952 was the Watchtower issue about disfellowshipping. And the talk he gave was all about the list of offenses that you could be disfellowshipped for. So I have one page here, and there's another page too that has all of the list the type of things that if you did, you'd be disfellowshipped for. And so he was preparing people for it. And when Franz came after he died, after Noor died, then the disfellowshipping, you know, it would change periodically, get harsh. And remember the commentary of James, the book, and Dunlap wrote that. And in that, they lessened up. Due to Dunlap's kindness, and somebody listened to him, the book showed that there was things you could do that was okay for people who were disfellowshipped. Like if a woman, her witness who was disfellowshipped, and a car broke down on the side of the road, if a male witness was passing by and he saw her car and her standing by her car, even though she was disfellowshipped, he could help her. So that was one illustration. There were two illustrations in there similar. So you could, if it was to save someone's life or to help them in a drastic situation, you could do that. But then after that, after that book, then they got hard again. That was 74. And on Freddie Franz in 77, he was instrumental in the attention manual. I'm trying to think of the full name of that. I can't. Anyway, so that's where they took a few pamphlets that they put out that they were sending to the congregation service committees on disfellowshipping and what your conduct can be towards disfellowshipping, who you could talk to and who you couldn't talk to. So that was in that book. And so it's constantly being revived. Well, except for the fact that the one major thing that has been true with all of the updated elders' manuals is the fact that you can associate with a disfellowship relative and not be disfellowshipped. If you don't talk about spiritual things, you will not be disfellowshipped. And it's very clear. Made a screenshot of it in the updated November of this month. That page that continues to say that and has the word spiritual italicized, that you can associate with relatives, not non-relatives, no way, but relatives, if you don't talk about spiritual things or complain about your disfellowshipping. And so disfellowshipping came from Noor's reaction, because I'm going to tell you, it was I wrote it down somewhere in my notes, and I can't seem to find it. But 1947, Awake magazine, which they said, yeah, that about excommunication. This was a January 8th, 1947 Awake magazine, that the Catholic practice of excommunication is not without pagan influence. They go on to say that the scriptures the Catholic Church uses as a void of excommunication are taken out of context. That's what was in that Awake. And the crazy part about it all is that the scriptures they use to justify disfellowshipping, which started 4 years later, they used the same scriptures of the Catholic Church to justify it and excommunication. And what they said in that 1947 Awake, that was a pagan influence. But because of what Noor saw, and it was local witnesses who attended the Kingdom Hall at 124. That was a dining room. Eventually, it was the Kingdom Hall until it was moved across the street when they built the 107 building, the garden with the garden in front. But at that Kingdom Hall, the local people were getting to know Beth was coming to those meetings, and it was couples that were wife swapping. That was the reason. And that magazine, March 1st, 1952. My husband remembers it. I was not a witness then. He remembers sitting in a congregation in Dallas, Texas, when they had discussed that Watchtower study article on disfellowship. I looked it up today. It's a doozy, and that's where it comes from. And that so what about all those years before? Well, I'll tell you, when I look at it up, Russell was very broad-minded on the situation of disfellowshipping. And it was Rutherford that really was about the harshness of when you're disfellowship, the results of disfellowshipping. So then Noor was really schooled by Rutherford. And so his attitude wasn't as bad as it got after this situation. There's so many conflicts of ideas at headquarters, and you see that in the literature. If you're going to stay in it for years, as many of us had, you see the conflicts, the changes constantly, the new light, which is, I like your remark about the new light. Somebody comes up with a better idea, but they think it's better, and they don't take into consideration what that idea, a so-called scriptural, that's with the scripture, does to the people on the outside who have to follow these ideas, or you get yourself disfellowshipped.
Yeah, and then Barbara too. I mean, they can change it in a heartbeat, and people, well, that wasn't right. We now have something new. Hey, Barbara, what I want to do here? I mean, really, you're getting a lot of people listening in here tonight, and you have a good retention rate. That's what I look for here on the 6 screens. People listening in, they stay listening in, and they have been since you came on. But what I would like to do, can we open up the lines? Can we get some people to call in and talk to you?
And before you do that, I would like to read you something, because it is a doozy.
All right.
Jerry Bergman, I don't know how many are familiar with this man who is an active witness, and he interviewed Covington before Covington died. Anyway, he had put this material out years ago, and I happen to have a copy of what he wrote on what Covington said. And Covington was another person that there's been misinterpretations about Covington. Even his death has never really been settled. He was disfellowship, so to speak, for being an alcoholic. That wasn't settled in Bethel. There were those I've talked to that told me that that wasn't it. The funeral talk, even that alluded to some other reason for it. His disfellowshipping. He got on the wrong side of people, and that wrong person was Noor. And it states, this is what Jerry Bergman wrote when he after he interviewed Covington, and says, according to Covington, after Rutherford died, Covington, received 99% of the votes for president, but Noor convinced him to become vice president, which is true, by the way. Later, Covington stated that Noor convinced him to resign from the vice presidency as well. Yeah, he told him, he said, we have a rule now, you can't be a part of the offices if you're not anointed. And Covington didn't stay. At that point, he said he wasn't anointed. So he gave up his position. And then in his words, Covington said this about He said, the dope that put that bastard in office. He said, Nora convinced him to resign from the vice presidency as well. In his words, Covington was, quote, the dope that put that bastard in office. Covington further added that I should have been smarter, for I didn't realize I was laying in bed with a snake. Nor can't be trusted. He slithers around like a snake. He is like a cobra.
Well, my goodness gracious, that's something else. I mean, that's amazing that he said that. Barbara, we're going to open up the lines here. We want people to come in and say hello to you. So we have Barbara Anderson. She's on the line with us tonight. And boy, I'll tell you what, she's spilling the beans here. She's really talking about some of the things that she's experienced when she was in the Watchtower. So if you guys have a question for Barbara, you'd like to say hello to her. My goodness, she's been an advocate. She's been an activist for so many years here. So if you'd like to say hello to her, hit *6 and come on and say hello to Barbara. Ask her some questions. We'd love to hear from you. She would as well. But boy, I'll tell you what, it's so amazing that we have Barbara here still with us, and she's willing to talk about what goes on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. So just hit *6, come in, say hello to Barbara, and that'll be amazing. But Barbara, I'll tell you what, you know more than most people know. You've seen some of the stuff up front and close. So I think it's just amazing. You can come on and tell your stories here. Go ahead and speak up. If you're on with us, go ahead. We got someone coming in now. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Barbara, the letter
Yes.
that you just read about they felt Nor was a snake or reminded them of a snake. Was that your opinion of him also, or did you have a different opinion?
I did not know Nor at all. He died 77. I didn't go to Bethel to 82. They didn't talk much about Nor. No, I don't know that he was that beloved. There were. It's because he was so difficult. I think that was basically it. He told people what to do. In fact, here even in Bergman's statement when he interviewed Covington, he says that the reason for the society's opposition to education are somewhat difficult to understand. According to Covington, the reason during the last 40 years is partly because Nor was himself fairly uneducated, and he barely made it out of high school. Covington also stated that Nor fired Quackenbush, the editor of The Awake, because he had brains. I can tell you about Quackenbush's issue. He was the manager, that's what they called him back then, of the writing department. And it was the service, but I kind of thought it was writing. Whatever. It didn't involve me. I heard about this, and when I saw what was written here, it said that Nor didn't like him because he had absolutely Quackenbush was smart. He was asked to leave Bethel and was outside of Bethel for a long time. And then when different people died at Bethel, when we came in, some other people who were prevented Quackenbush from coming back, and he was one of the top writers from Bethel. Then the way opened for Quackenbush to come back. I think he came back 2 years before we went in. And that's because Nor wasn't around to prevent him from coming back. My husband had told me years ago about this problem with Nor. Quackenbush was a very, very busy man. And when his vacation rolled around, he wanted to go to Switzerland skiing. Nor told him that he could do what he wanted on his vacation, but he said, you have to give some talks in Switzerland. And Quackenbush refused. He said, no, I'm tired. I want to do what I want to do. You know what? He was removed. In fact, he was scolded in front of the whole family. Of course, it was 200 or so people back at that time, and they had to listen as Quagga stood there, and he was belittled by
That's
Nora.
still humiliating. That's still very humiliating. Whether it's 2 or 200 people, Norm meant to humiliate him.
Absolutely, that's why he wasn't beloved. And so when then Ray France comes up with a study on the governing body and brings this to the attention of different ones. Nor was furious. So was France, because they lost their positions. They were the top dogs. They were, I said this once before when I was speaking here. In the Proclaimers book, the governing body were the men who ran the corporations. And they were called that. And then with Francis' work, and he showed the scriptures, came up with all these points about them not that the governing body is not corporate heads but spiritual men, and everything changed. And they brought the elder arrangement in, the governing body arrangement in the 72, I think. So Nor was furious. I don't know if I brought out to you, I can't remember if I brought this out, because yeah, maybe I did, when Nor was in the garden and a woman was standing with him and he was in his wheelchair. I think so. That when someone else came out and greeted him, and Nor says, I've got a brain tumor and I'm going to die. And the other guy said, cursed at him and called him a SOB. And he said, you deserve it for what you did to me here at Bethel. When this man was sick, Nor put him in the factory to work. He was in the service department. And when he was ill, Nor transfers him over to the factory to work. This is God's organization. Listen, I heard all these things. People talk. I was a peer. I was their age, kind of in their age. And so they were talking to me. And, but I didn't leave the organization over it. It's only when I look back at all this, I think, you know what? They ruined it for themselves. These stupid things that they did in the name of religion, finding a scripture to support something that it was ridiculous, and it harmed so many people. You have to believe that there have been millions of people since this thing started in 1879 that was so harmed by these beliefs. And there was I'll have to search for it and use it, because I saw this. It was in a newspaper clipping. The newspaper is the clipping that I have. Got to pick through and see if I can find it. A man started to follow Russell, and when he decided he didn't want to follow him anymore, and this is early stuff, 1905 or something like that. And he says, when I decided I didn't want to follow Russell, he said, nobody spoke to me anymore. They didn't have the word disfellowship, but they shunned him. So even though Russell didn't make a big deal out of the, like Nor did on this fellowship, being what all the reasons that you can get this fellowship for, you couldn't leave back then either. If you left, all your friends were gone. Nobody wants to speak to someone who doesn't agree with you anymore. Over religion. That's why I don't talk about theology with people. I refuse to do it. We brought in so many people into this organization. I mean, we helped them, and we shouldn't have. We should have just minded our own business, because so many of them had heartache, and it's just another man's idea that this is what God wants, and they try to fit scriptures to it.
Well,
Well,
I agree with you. The Watchtower is a man-made religion, that's for sure. One last question, and then if you want to talk to, or if you want to talk to someone else, I'm wondering if does the governing body really run the Watchtower, or who really runs the Watchtower? Who owns this governing stock? Because it's the stockholders that own the corporation. Who owns the stock?
It isn't. It isn't stock like on the stock market that you buy in. Early on, it was, you could buy a share of the organization. We're talking about the early Watchtower, Pennsylvania, for $10, but they didn't. It wasn't considered like stock. It was a share, and the one who had the most shares, which Russell did, as it progressed, he had more and more shares, and because he would, when he gave the Bible House for an example, when he signed it over 1898, I think it was March of 1898, he signed the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, his shares, and he had thousands of them by that time. It was different than what we have today. I don't really have, with all of these corporations that the Watchtower has all over the place. This is another whole different animal. I mean, when you're talking about corporations, how all of that works, I've never been highly interested in that. There have been some statements made about how that all worked, and I've never put it to memory, although I have read all of their bylaws and that kind of thing. It's never mentioned, money's never mentioned in the corporate papers. So many of these bylaws are not published with the corporate papers that are filed for us all to buy and read. So who's behind it? I'll tell you, they got a Treasury Department. They got banks galore, and they borrow money constantly, and they're always trying to get more money. The governing body takes they take the information from the legal department on how to run the organization. There's the Treasury Department. They have meetings on all of that. That's highly confidential. I never was involved in any of that. So I mean, some people speculate and say, oh, is somebody in this world that's running this whole thing? If they are, I don't have any idea. I wouldn't even venture into anything like that. So,
well, I just thought I would ask your opinion. If anyone would know, it would be you, Barbara. Thank you for your answers.
well, I don't really know that I answered it. I can say I don't know enough about it. Now, I can look up some things on the share business. I found, when I found the early account book in the Treasury Department that changed the whole deal with believing that Russell was the first president, and he wasn't. That was based on money. That was based on how much Connally gave. But that was for the association, 1881. And they were trying to get up some money. Russell was putting money for these tracts. Remember, that's the name of the organization. It was the Tract Society, Watchtower Tract Society. They were giving tracts out everywhere. Russell went through quite a lot of money, his and his father's and contributions. Very small group back then, just a handful of people that were meeting. And then Connally, he gave, when they decided to make a legal association. Now, this was not the corporation in 84, Watchtower Bible and Tract. Well, it was Zion's Watchtower. And so the association They put together $5,000 between the three of them. Connolly then was made president because he gave the most. Russell gave only $500. His father, who was made vice president of the association, it was in the accounts book that I located in the Treasury's walk-in place where they kept all the money, whatever. And so I was given the permission to go through whatever we wanted to go through there. And I found the accounts book. And so that changed the whole organization's view on the past. So it was definitely an amount of money made. Conley, the president, vice president was Joseph Russell, and secretary treasurer was Russell. Then they ran out of money again, so they decided to make legal corporations, and they had another donation period. This was the second time they did this, and the drive was for a lot more money, and the paperwork that I have heard said $14,000. There were 7 people involved in that, and then it grew bigger and bigger. As people donated money, they would get a share, and then they would vote on every year on who would be president. They had their vote.
Okay, Barbara, we're getting really into a lot of stuff here. Let's stay with the subject at hand. I mean, I'm not trying to beat you up here, but we'll talk about that.
I don't care.
I mean, we're just wandering too far on. I mean, it's really, we're losing. We got to get the people, let's stay on the subject at hand. I appreciate what you're doing. We'll talk about Conley and the money and all of that some other time. But we got so many other people who want to speak up. So why don't you come in right now? You're ready to talk to Barbara. Go ahead. Say hello. Say hello.
Hello.
Go ahead.
You're in.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Barbara, was she left in 97?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't attend the memorial in 98, so everybody knew that there was something big up.
Okay, well, I have a friend who knew Larry Graham, and he told me one time, sometime between 95 and 97, that Larry had Prince at Bethel, because Larry was, trying to recruit him in, and he did. Do you recall that? How does that play in Bethel? Because Prince was extremely controversial. He was the reason for parental advisories on music. So, do you hear about that? Or?
I started to look into the Prince thing way, way later, after he died. And, I knew quite a lot about the Michael Jackson stuff, but I didn't know much. By the way, there's going to be something this next spring, or winter or spring next year, on Michael Jackson. Something pretty big. A corporation is coming out with something. And, but Prince, no. I kind of looked into that after the funeral, and I wrote something up on that. I haven't thought about it in a long time, but I know that he was. They gave money. They gave money to the organization, and that's why nobody spoke about them negatively.
Yeah. So I happen to know that I went to a memorial for a common friend, and see, I go back to where Larry Graham came in the organization. He was in our congregation.
Oh.
So I know him right from the beginning. But here's the story: is that they were standing at the Kingdom Hall, probably in Minnesota, and the brothers brought out something about needing to fix the bathroom, and it was a certain. It was so many X numbers of money, and how they were going to try to get everyone to contribute and everything else. And then Prince leans into Larry and says, you tell the brothers I'll take care of that. And he wrote a check. So he was giving them money. He had a lot of money, of course, to give. But what gets me about that is, the rules and the way they come down on you to the common person, you better line up. And Larry was a nice person. I'm not going to say anything bad about that guy. He was a nice guy. But man, he put out an album with all kinds of misrepresentation of the Bible and everything after he had been studying over a year. And I asked the brothers about that, and this is mind your own business, just as they usually do. I said, well, it wouldn't be mind your own business if I was doing that. But I'm not any kind of bitter about that. The issues are far bigger than those personalities. But Michael Jackson, Prince, and Serena Williams, what's going on there? They don't say anything about that. And they are kind of in a bad place there, talk about these people's lifestyles, because they're not lined up with the common witness.
That's true. That's true. It depends on who's running the show at Bethel, the show, right? That's who's running the service department. Different things happen because of people's personal attitudes toward it. Medical stuff, who comes up with the brightest idea, who's the pushes, who has an in with a governing body member. It's just human stuff. There's no miraculous stuff in this. And like I said about Michael Jackson, this guy who now I believe is the president of one of the, I think Watchtower, New York or something. He personally told me years and years ago when we were walking together to work about Michael Jackson. He said, I would do anything if I could go to Michael Jackson's show. And I said, look at the example of the hymn to the kids. And so oh no, my husband wouldn't go to the show. We were invited to go out in service with Michael Jackson. My husband wouldn't do it. He said, I'm not going to go. Why would I want to just go out with Michael? I'll go to my own congregation and go out in service. But the kids, they had big portraits and all kinds of stuff of Michael Jackson in the apartments. And at Bethel, they wouldn't say anything negative. And they never did come out with anything negative about Michael Jackson because he was a big contributor. So too with Prince. Am I saying that I criticize them, that they should have said something? No, I'm not. They just get themselves into over their heads, and then they lie or deny. And I saw it over and over and over again. But you just accept it because you think God is running this and puts up with imperfect people and all that stuff. But they get themselves in.
It gets funny that way, I'm going to say. But I'll tell you one quick one before I let everybody else in. At the Kingdom Hall, Larry was the warm-up band in the Bay Area for a concert by the Temptations. And so that was on Saturday night. The next morning, one of the Temptations is sitting right behind him in the Kingdom Hall. And he made a comment, too, about 75 that made everybody kind of cringe because this was right around that time. But anyway, but the funny thing is like after the meeting, you would think, what are we hearing from the platform? And I knew better. And I was just a young guy. And these people just swarmed the guy from the Temptations. But then, they just acted like, typical crazed fans. And then, just to run it up to another comparison, in 2005 in the Bay Area, there's a new assembly hall there. And shortly after that, Stephen Lett, and then later on, Garrett Loesch came to the assembly hall just because, look at here what we got now, I guess. And they gave a talk. They were special guests. And after the sessions, witnesses swarm up to them like they're rock stars. And it's like, I look at it and I just go, I was starting to get the idea that something was wrong. And of course, I'm done with him for the last 5 or 6 years. But you do great. You've done great service, Barbara. I just want to tell you that.
No longer being recorded.
All right. So I'll let somebody else in. Barbara?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
The recording has started.
Barbara?
Yeah.
Oh, Barbara?
Yes.
Hi, can I ask you about the relationship or what was between the Watchtower and the UN?
Yes. Thank you.
Well, I worked with a guy named Ciro Alessino, and he was a support person in writing. So at one point in his career, he was about for a long time, probably 40. Well, now I don't even know if he's even alive. And but when I was working with him, so, he would have to get me stuff if I needed any historical material or whatever I was working on. He would get it. Well, he would go into Manhattan every Wednesday, and I didn't know he was going over to the UN. He just was going, as far as I was concerned, he put on his door a note, "Gone to the library," which meant the 42nd Street, the big library there. And the writers would give him a list of what books they wanted. This is before Google. So I had no idea that he was doing that. When the UN came out with an article on the UN, I was at Bethel at 90 or something. I don't even, I mean, I couldn't recall if I look at my stuff. So he told me, I said, "This Awake." Oh, no. He asked me, he says, "What do you think of this Awake magazine on the UN?" And it had a big globe, I think, on the front page. And I said, "I think it was very interesting. Whoever wrote this, I think it was very well done because it didn't attack the UN. It was moderate." And I said, "This is the way to do this. Instead of saying the horrible things about this," I said, you can get around it after you talk to people about the Bible and the good things, and you can get around it. But to say this stuff that they were saying about it," I said, "this doesn't do that. This is really a lovely article. And the way the ending is about the Bible, I thought it was great." So he told me, I looked at him, I said, "Did you write this?" And he said, "Yeah, I wrote this." And I said, "Well, I think you did a very good job." Well, every single year they put out an article on the UN that was nice, kind, and I didn't know that that was a rule of the UN. If you were NGO, you had to do something like this. This was a great big publishing house, and they had to say something publicly in favor of the UN. So when that
My question is because when I was active, I was a part of RBC, and we were building the new world headquarters. And during just a break, there was a couple of elders talking, and they were saying that they didn't know why, but the buzz at Watchtower was that they wanted to get out of the city. They needed to get out of the city as soon as possible. They said that something was coming and that they did not want to be in the city, and that's why they were constructing the new world headquarters. So I'm intrigued if maybe Watchtower, if somebody is privy to information beforehand, if you might call it conspiracy theory, but also a couple of years before the vax and everything. I don't want to say it because algorithms and whatnot, but they brought out an article and it had pictures of people with face masks, and this is a couple of years before the CV-19.
they were privy to information, absolutely. Witnesses worked in places that you wouldn't believe. They work in hobnobbing with officials and government. I know because I sat there with Don Adams in his office when he got the call from the Justice Department and giving him information. And he let me sit there. I told him I said, oh, I'll leave. And he said, no, sit there. Then afterwards, he tells me that this person calls. She would have lost her job. You're not supposed to do that, but they do. I've been sitting in somebody else's office when he was told about investment because a witness in Europe was working for a pharmaceutical corporation and learned interesting facts about that, what they were coming out with, a new drug. Called this man and said, they're coming out with a new drug, so invest. And he did. I was in my office in the writing department only a few months when one of the leading men he was a secretary to Lloyd Berry, who was the overseer of the writing department, the governing body member, and everything. He was there at Bethel. Says my husband had been there in the 50s, and so he said, "Come to my office." He said, "I just want to know, what do you do for investments?" And he said, "You've been out. You and Joe been outside for so long." He said, "How do you invest?" And I looked at him in shock. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Well, don't you invest?" I said, "No, we're not supposed to." I was such an ignorant girl. And I mean, I lived in West Palm Beach when the stock market collapsed in the 80s or 60s or whatever it was. I don't remember. But one of the leading brothers, he invested, highly invested in the stock market when it crashed. Let's see, when was it? It was in the early 70s, late 60s. And you know what? Everybody laughed at him. They made fun of him because witnesses don't do that. And he went beyond what was written and he did it. So good for him. Well, that was our philosophy. And this guy's coming in and asking where we were invested. They do these things. It's not what's in the literature. The literature makes us toe the mark. The literature tells us about the future, how wonderful it's going to be. And then we got a brotherhood, a wonderful brotherhood. And we live on all of that. But they're the same people who write that, who have intrigue, who get divorced, who get the problems, or this and that. It's all beautiful, beautiful writings. I don't know. I participated in it.
Hey, Barbara, we got a lot of people here still want to call in. We're getting kind of short on the program here, but why don't we just we'll open up the lines here? Let some other people talk. We don't have to know that much. I'm glad you're sharing this, but we got other people who want to say hello to you. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Say hello to Barbara. You're on with us. Go ahead. We had a bunch of people in what we call the green zone. So go ahead. We're looking at area code 925. Go ahead. All righty.
I've covered it all. There's no more questions to ask.
Well, no, there was more here. We had more. We call them in the green zone. So if you'd like to say hello to Barbara, go ahead. Well, Barbara, my goodness gracious. I mean, we don't want to overload everyone's donkey here tonight. We want to go slow with this. Go ahead. Say hello to Barbara.
Hi, Barbara. My name's thank you so much for all the work that you've done. It's really helped me personally.
Good.
I've got a question about what you said earlier. You mentioned earlier that you went to the basement and you were looking in some of the drawers down there. I was just wondering, is there anything in particular that stands out to you? Anything that raised your eyebrow? Or?
Great question. Oh, yes. It wasn't in the basement. It was a floor. You know, that building, the Squibb building, it had, I don't know, 12 floors, I think, or something like that. And some of those floors were raw factory. It weren't finished. And that's where they had stored stuff. So, yes, in the drawer that I found all kinds of neat stuff. Like I said about Nora's cards, postcards to his wife. There was about 6 or 7 pictures in there, and it was Rutherford. And Rutherford was by a swimming pool, and it was a kind of a where you could see in the distance, and it looked to me like there was an ocean in the distance. The swimming pool was at the top of a build, you know, whatever. It was hard to make it out, but it was a flat area, concrete around the swimming pool. It had a kind of a 4 or 5 foot wall around this area, and then in the distance you could see the ocean. So there's Rutherford in a one-piece bathing suit. Well, this is some old pictures because that's what they wore back then. So it had, you know, it was one piece from his neck down to his crotch, and he had a huge belly on, and he was drunk as a skunk. He was so drunk. That's the picture. I took them to the art department. They were shocked. And he,
I think they call them mankinis now, don't they?
And he stuck his tongue out. He come up to the camera. One picture was him sticking his tongue out, and so all you saw was his nose and his big tongue at the camera. In one picture, the other pictures he acted like he was just frolicking around, which he might have been, but he was not so.
Noise.
You're defaming them the same way you don't want them defaming you.
Yeah, there's a lot of background noise at the moment.
It really worked. I had my manager.
I can't hear Barbara Anderson anymore, but I did call in to try to see if I could ask a question about how she feels about her son shunning her. Are we able to hear the broadcast anymore? I want to turn it back on if not. Is anybody there? Can we talk to the service?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly, but there's an awful lot of background noise.
Okay.
Gone now.
Well, with regards to my son, I have respect for him. He is an adult. He's 60. I think he was 62 or 61.
Hey, Barbara, just hold on 1 second here. We did lose our telephone line. We're going to come right back in, so just hang in here with us. And we'll be right back with Barbara Anderson. We have the telephone lines. They go off every 6 hours.
Welcome into the live Six Screens conference
So
call.
we'll be right back, Barbara.
We
Hold
thank
on.
you for joining in. To speak up and talk, press *6 on your telephone.
Yeah, this happens
When you are done
every
talking,
6
press
hours. Our
*6 to
telephone
mute
line goes
yourself.
off, but we'll bring the telephone line
Remember,
back
when you
in,
are
and we'll be all
unmuted,
set to
your
go.
phone
So
is a
hang in here with
microphone
us.
and picks up on all noises in the background. We hope you enjoy the programs tonight. You will
Hang
now
in.
be placed into the
We
conference.
got Barbara Anderson, and
If
she's
you are the host,
yeah, Barbara
please
Anderson's
enter
on with
your
us live
PIN
here tonight.
followed
We got a
by
lot
the
of people
pound
want to
or
talk to her.
hash.
So
Your
we'll bring her
input is
back here just in a
invalid.
few
You
seconds.
entered 2299. Please enter your PIN. Thank you. There
All
are
right, we're going to get her right back here,
24
so just hold on.
participants in the conference. The recording has started.
I was on camera, and I don't want I'm never gonna go.
Okay, so we get Barbara back on with us. We got the phone lines back open. Go ahead.
About my son, you want to hear that?
So Barry Graham's album, I got him.
Yeah, the previous lady said she wanted to know about your son or how you felt about him not talking to you.
Well, yeah.
I know that.
We made him the way he is. I mean, he has a right to choose what he
Mute
wants.
can everybody on their phone mute their phone? We need *6 from everybody on their phone.
Yes, I do agree, sister. Hold on.
Everybody on their phone, hit *6 and make sure that you hear that it says you're muted unless you're going to speak.
Well, I say that all the time, sister. Thank you for saying that. It just it drives me nuts here. People don't follow the rules. So go ahead.
We don't know the rules. Thanks.
So what would you like to say, sister? Go ahead. All right. If you want to talk to Barbara, hit *6. And come on, friends, folks, we have the telephone line goes out and sometimes it causes confusion. So if you want to speak to Barbara, hit *6. Come on right now.
All participants are muted and they can unmute themselves.
All right. So, I mean, you guys heard it. So if you want to speak with Barbara, we had a number of people in there and the phone line's cut off. So if you'd like to speak to Barbara, come on in. Go ahead. You're on with us.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, hi.
Well, yes.
Hi.
Hold on, sir.
Oh, there's a dude.
This call is for Barbara.
Oh, well,
Go ahead.
Well, I want to hear what he had to say, but I'm just interested in, I understand that Barbara has family. And so I understand that she's sort of like us and that something happened with her family. So I was just kind of curious about that. My end result question is effectively, would she do it all again and lose her family all again, all for us? I'm really grateful for her, but that seems like a really awful thing to lose your family. And I mean, I know it. I'm completely an orphan, as it were. So I just kind of want to know about the whole family thing, and would you do it again? Because, I mean, maybe I wouldn't. I'd be selfish, maybe.
That's a difficult question. Would I do it again? I never thought about it. I just go forward. I'm not sorry over anything in my life, even joining the witnesses. It's been very interesting. I've had extraordinarily interesting life. And I wish there wasn't so much dissension and unhappiness over but I won't allow what my son does to destroy me. If he's happy by choosing the Watchtower, it's his life. I don't control him. He's an independent personality. If he wants his children to grow up as a witness, they make their own decisions. And my husband's the same way I am. We see eye to eye on that. I guess because internally we're happy, and we haven't allowed others to destroy the way that we view life. And I don't feel that I'm alone, because there are so many people that are so wonderful that who are former witnesses, and I knew so many witnesses that were wonderful people. So people outside of this organization, they lose their kids for one reason or another. So I'm not alone. At least I think my son's not in jail. Some people, their kids are in jail. Mine's a good citizen. He just doesn't agree with me and his father. So I haven't talked to him for 20 years. Oh, a little bit. I think 11 years ago, we had a little conversation when my mother died. But he wasn't really warm or friendly because he thinks I think maybe he was very embarrassed at us leaving. And maybe that was it. So I don't know how to everybody's got their own way they deal with issues. Mine is just the way we deal with it. We love life. We loved it when we were witnesses. We love it when we're not witnesses. We just love life and try to make the best out of, a proverbial lemonade out of lemons.
Ms. Anderson, I have a question.
I'm sorry. Not everybody loses their reputation worldwide in a Jehovah's Witness way and is willing to give up their grandkids. So I think it's amazing that you're willing to do it again. And things, the phones are working now.
I don't know. I hadn't even thought about doing it again if I was going to do it over again. Nobody chooses this kind of thing anyway. You do is make the best out of what happens. And look, I'm grateful to be this age and to have a wonderful husband. And I'm grateful for many, many things that have happened. I've traveled. What I hurt the most is what I see on like the suicide that we had here a few months ago. That is what bothers me. That's why I decided to speak out. That this is it's just no different than any of the other religions. It's just people coming up with ideas and others like it or they don't like it. And that's the world we live in. So, but when you hurt a religion that harms, that's why we went all out to help in Kazakhstan with Ergali trying to raise money so they could win some of these cases, which they are, because of the Watchtower is so harmful, and they use their money to put down the witnesses who speak up, or who they do the harm, and they say they're persecuted when they persecute their own people. They don't treat the members with kindness. I think that's why I said I've had enough of this. I'm just going to speak out, and wherever the Watchtower flops, I don't care. I care about the people who are members.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Yes, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Sure. My question, I know you were already asked about who really runs the organization from a financial standpoint. My question is, who runs the information control? Who is the propaganda minister? Because Watchtower always seems to stay on point with their message to the literature, through their talks and all of that. But who at the core is really responsible for that? Is it the writing department? Is it the writing department and the legal department? Is there a kind of a core group that always makes sure that the message stays on point?
I think you're right. Well, when I found out that in the writing department, if they had five letters or complaints or whatever, and service department had the similar response to one particular issue, then they made an issue out of it. So they have people in each department that have the appointment to regulate this stuff, and then it goes to there are committees in writing, there's committee in service. How all that the intricacies of all of that, I have an idea how it works, but I'm never part of it. But I listened and learned quite a bit about it and saw the downfalls of it, because I came also out of business, and I could see where many of the people at Bethel making big decisions are very ignorant people. They've never had an experience, and they don't want it. Sometimes I was asked questions by men who were running some things, and asked me how it would have been run on the outside, especially to do with accounting. And they did a very poor job back then. Then they would get another committee. I heard after I left Bethel from people who were in writing who would talk to me and say, "Oh, they got another committee because that didn't work. This didn't work." You get repercussions of making these decisions, and whoever's got the best idea on this and that, it's a very fluid world, and it's a very fluid organization. So they bounce along. What I'm trying to say is this not what they say in the literature about this God-directed thing, and then once in a while they say there's no Holy Spirit. They admit that direct. About the governing body, they make mistakes. Well, for years, they made everybody think they didn't make mistakes. And this is the way God wanted it. They turned a mistake into looking good. It is always something. And it destroys people on the outside. They don't see that. They don't see what they're doing when they make these stupid statements about children. There's a new Watchtower. I know this is off the subject, but there's a new Watchtower, a study copy just come out. Somebody called me on it yesterday. It actually says counseling children not to talk about bad things with others outside the congregation. What would you make out of that? What kind of idiot would tell that to children to make them afraid to talk to people on the outside when they got a problem? Well, that's child abuse. That's child abuse. They're telling the kids who are suffering from some sort of abusive thing, don't go out to the world and tell anybody. Keep it inside the congregation. That's why there's problems over and over again. So that's the way with it all. It's up, down, up, down. don't be sorry that you're out. Don't be sorry over anything and move forward, because it's over for them. They're making mistakes left and right. I hear that from inside. They're always trying to mop up what they do. A few years ago, I actually heard a man who called to say that he says they argue in their meetings. He said, you go by the door, you hear people who are assistants of government body meet on Tuesday. And he said they just argue and argue amongst them. What idea do you have? Next week, we're going to come up with this. It's always something. And here we're outside reading these wonderful magazines about this fabulous brotherhood, this fabulous God-directed thing. And it's just people. And we could, like Michael, my dear friend Michael, in his early 40s, who kills himself over this stuff, because the elders don't even know their own literature, don't even know what they're doing, and they're absolutely driving people up the wall. I don't understand how in the world this organization is operating today with all the goofs that they have made and the kind of people that are putting in power.
Well, no, I'm glad you have that feeling. I'm glad you have that feeling. Well, thank you, brother, for calling in. We do have some other people on the line. Go ahead, speak up. Say hello to Barbara. You're on with us. Your turn. Barbara, we got a lot of people coming into the program tonight. We call it the green zone. I can see people coming in and they're ready to contact and call you. My goodness, Barbara, Well, I don't want to keep you up too late here tonight. I know you're down there in the South in Tennessee. And so we're going on close to 11.
I'm all wound up now. I'm here for the night.
You wound up?
I'm not making light of this. Don't worry about it.
We got someone else coming in here. Hello. Say hello to Barbara.
Hello, Barbara. Hello, Rick.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm ringing from England. It's very late. It's very early, I should say, but we've been watching and listening with great interest. I had one question. I don't know if there's enough time to cover it, really. But did you ever come across, were you ever around the whole 607 1914 Carl Olaf Johnson heat that was in Bethel at the time in the 80s with Brother Franz and the Gentile Times reconsidered research that Carl Olaf Johnson, Brother Johnson, was handing in the information? Did that ever cross your path?
Yes. Just a moment.
We heard in England that there was such a lot of stir. It stirred up a lot of in the research department. I heard, well, this was a rumor over here, that a lot of people were really upset about the research, because I read his book quite a few times. Studied it, and it's compelling. It's indisputable if you have the time to look into it. But
I'll tell you the little I know about it, and that was, each of us in our offices had assignments to do. We didn't ask other people what assignments they had. That's just a no-no. So everything is confidential. You keep your nose clean by just doing your work. But I went into this one office which I had a business to do there, and there was a material laying in an envelope on the floor that the guy was trying to he was going to throw it away, and it had come in. It came to Schroeder, I believe, if I remember correctly, and Schroeder sent it down to him. It was this material that Carl Olaf Johnson, he was doing the right thing according to anybody's sense. You know, He sent it there. He wasn't running ahead. I mean, if I wrote a book now, I wouldn't ask for Watchtower. If I find out all kinds of things, I will write the book and put it out there. I wouldn't ask them. Well, he found out all kinds of things that Watchtower was wrong at, but he ran it by them. You could talk to Rude Pearson, who put out the book on Rutherford's coup. He was involved with all of that. In fact, the other name on the cover of Johnson's book is the name of a pseudonym of Rude Pearson in Sweden. And they did their best to bring this stuff to attention. But you know what? These men who were running this show, they decided they weren't going to, it was a house of cards. They knew that if they changed the states and stuff like that, it would all come tumbling down. They're not going to do that thing.
Yes, I would recommend to all the listeners, everybody who has a chance to have a look at that book. But sorry to cut you, Barbara.
Yes.
It will free you if you have the patience and a little bit of interest in the story of how they got their 607 dates.
That's right.
Book, I must admit.
We read it after we left, and we appreciate all the hard work that the former Jehovah's Witnesses are doing over the years to expose this silliness and serious harm, and we appreciate what he did. Now he's Rude. Rude is an older man. Carl, they're all older. Their days on this earth are like ours, going to run out. Pretty soon. We hope not, but that's the way it is. But we did something. We did something for others, and he did. He tried and tried to get the organization. And what did they do? Throw the stuff away, or meet and this. No, we're not going to touch it, and then throw the stuff away.
Yes, I think that book is one of the most dangerous books to the Watchtower's authority. It's the most dangerous one.
Well, you know what? I don't know that that's true anymore. It was when we were concerned about doctrine and those kind of things. Do you notice that the Watchtowers, you look at them now, they don't even resemble what we learned years ago. They don't touch controversial things. They don't touch 607.
Yes, one of the very interesting parts for me, because I came into the organization when I was in 1990. So it was a Live Forever book, and the big double spread page was the 607 to 1914, and the person I was studying with at the time, this elder, it slipped out with him. He said, well, actually, in secular history, they say the name 587, but we say 607. I said, well, why is that? And that 30 years, I got the answer 30 years later from my brother Carl Olaf Johnson's book. And that was a question. He actually said this classic, wait on Jehovah. And I did. It took 30 years. And I managed to free my mind from all that nonsense. So their authority means nothing to me. It's like having a fake policeman. Someone gives them a uniform and say, there you go, you're a policeman now. And so they can walk around all they want, thinking that they're police, but they have no authority when it comes to really doing something with from the perspective of spiritual things. And Rick, by the way, it is Maverick, by the way. I emailed you earlier in the week. I just want to let you know. I thought it was my debut on your show, and I appreciate you both. Barbara and Rick, you're doing a wonderful job.
Well, thank you. Let me just get this clear. What was the email? What was the name under the email?
Maverick. 587 Maverick.
Oh, Maverick.
You'll see me in the chat sometimes.
I got you, Maverick. Oh, yeah, I got you. So you got the app? You got the app all right?
I have, yeah. Thank you very much. I'm using it right now, and I really appreciate all the hard work you're all doing, and every little bit really helps. Even one comment, one sentence, one new way of thinking can really be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and to help someone free their minds from basically other people oppressing their thoughts and not letting them make their own decisions about their own faith and so on. We don't always have to agree on everything. I mean, I still have my faith. I still believe in God and in Christ and so on. But I'm very open to hearing everyone, even if they have a totally different view to me. And that's something that we never got a chance to do as witnesses. You know, it's their way or the highway, as we all know.
Well, thank you.
You know?
Thank you, ma'am, for coming in. I'm glad you're on the app, too. It's nice and clear. We can hear you nice and clear. Thank you. Thank you for dialing in.
No problem.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Take care.
Well, there you go, Barbara. So we got people calling in. We had people calling in, a couple of people calling in from the United Kingdom, 3 people tonight. So that's good. People are listening in from all over the world. So anyways, I think we got time for maybe 1 or 2 more calls. If you'd like to say hello to Barbara, she's on with us tonight. Go ahead, say hello. Don't be bashful.
Hello, Barbara. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hey. Hello.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if I'm interrupting somebody else or not.
Well, go ahead. You're on with us, Kurt. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to make it real quick. Barbara, thank you for your program. Rick and yourself helped me understand the Watchtower better. I want to make one quick statement that you may, in your research, agree with me when you were at Brooklyn. To understand the Watchtower, I think we have to understand the Bible students, and then we have to understand the Seventh-day Adventists and William Miller.
Yes,
and the
absolutely. You got it. Yes, I agree 100% with you. Some of the books, where I'm sitting right now in front of the screen, if I turn around, my desk is behind me, and then there's books. I have so many books here on Millerite movement, the Seventh-day Adventists, all of those groups. It's amazing what the repetitiveness of one group to the next group to the next group. You know, you wonder, is this going to happen again? Another group come up in another 20 years that's going to be based on the same old drivel that we got from William Miller. You know, it's just the same old thing. It's a rerun. Just change it a little bit. Change it a little here.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I've done a lot of research on that statement that we're discussing. But anyway, I know it's almost over for your program, but thank you so much, Barbara, and thank you, Rick, and I'll go back to mute. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Hello.
Go ahead,
Hi.
join with us. Go ahead. Yep.
Hey.
Hi there. Go ahead, ma'am. You go ahead first.
You're first. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard a woman's voice there. Hi. It's great. Brian calling. I wanted to ask Barbara a couple of things, maybe a little bit off topic, but something I'm kind of interested in that I know about. So, Barbara, a number of years ago, and I think Kurt kind of was he was kind of hinting at this too, that there's an awful lot of literature that is precursing the growth of the Watchtower Society and all of those things. Now, I understand, I think you told me one time before on a previous show quite a number of years ago that you had you went out to Washington State and got all of Richard Rowley's library.
Yes.
Maybe that was 10 years ago, maybe something like that. Now,
I'm looking at some of it behind me.
How much? Right. How much? How many volumes do you think? How much stuff did you get out of Richard? I knew Richard. That is to say, I met him a few times, and I live in Western Canada, so we got together a few times. But how much stuff have you got from Richard? Have you had a chance to
categorized it all yet? And what are your plans on that area? And then I have another question for you as well.
2011 is when we went there to pick it up. Richard's wife was going to throw it all in the dumpster. And she notified me that Richard wanted me to have it all. And she said, I'm not going to have people come through this house and pick up what they want. I'll throw it on the dumpster. If you don't get it, it's going out. Well, I couldn't see. I knew what he had, and because we had been out there and before. And I couldn't see it going to the dumpster. And we rented a 24-foot, believe me, it was a semi, because I could look out my window and talk to a driver in another semi. It's 24 foot. And we loaded it up, and we had help. We had two other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that flew out there to help to carry all this stuff. We had to build a building on a property here just to keep it all. Now, I have sold. It cost us a great deal of money to do that. It cost us approximately $4,000. And so I'm not a keeper of Watchtower memorabilia. I'm a researcher. So what if I saw that it was worth something, I sold it on eBay. But if it had something in it that I needed, that wasn't on, a lot of the old Watchtower stuff is on the internet, so I could get it from there. And I mean, whole books. But there was stuff Richard had that was priceless. I would never sell it.
Was that 24-foot U-Haul full pretty well?
Yes. In fact, I got his desk right behind me. He built it when he was 17 years old. It's huge, and big, deep drawers where he kept every copy of the Watchtower of the year standing up like this in his big drawers, and there's 4 huge ones. And this is great for a researcher. And the back of what, if you're viewing me and just not listening, the back of my chair is books, and he had a big backing where he built slats and stuff. This man wrote. That's one thing that I haven't gone through enough of. I just don't have the time. But you take any subject, he wrote on it. And so there's a file for everything that he wrote. He typed all this. And so I got 8 file cabinets beside all of the boxes and boxes and boxes. I still have the Golden Age to sell. I sold plenty of them. But once I got our money back, then I stopped selling because it takes so much time to do that. So I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. I was going to ask you because that half horrifies me, not completely, but a bit horrifies me. But anyway, I understand. What did you say it cost to rent the U-Haul and
well, we have
Lake and then back to
$4,000. It was 5 days on the road, and so we had the motels, food. When we were out there for I think 3 days. We had to rent a place to stay, and the 2 men that joined us, we paid for that place to stay, and it was just such a tremendous expense. And then, like I said, my husband built this building on our property, and the materials alone were almost $2,000 just to house all this stuff. So.
Well, I'm glad that it didn't get into the dumpster. So once you got your $4,000 or $5,000 back that it cost to go get it, then you quit selling on eBay. I'm glad to hear that because I didn't even know you were selling it.
What we're selling was the original copies of the Watchtower bound, 1879 bound Watchtower. Well, what do I need that for? It's worth money, so I sold it. So, I mean, I'm not a collector.
I hope you got a lot for those. Because they are hard to come by, especially originals and or the reprints from the 20s. But that brings me to my other question, and this is maybe a bit personal. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Now, Richard's quest, from what I knew of him after he left, was he was always still kind of searching to see if there was an answer to this question of, is there such a thing as the truth, as the true religion, or where was God? How was God active in history today or not? And I'm just wondering where you've come down on that question, you and Joe, after all your years as witnesses. Are you people still religious in any way, or has the whole thing destroyed your faith, or where do you come down on that? And do you think that there is anything at all to this apocalyptarian stuff? So that's a big, long, 2 or 3 pointed question, but go ahead. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
And long ago, when I embarked on doing this, I decided that I am not going to discuss religion. One lady called me and said, what's your spirituality now? I said, I don't discuss religion. I discuss the harm of the Watchtower. I said, it's religion is too divisive. I said, many of the ex-witnesses belong to all different religions. I'm not going to discuss religion. I used to be a walking encyclopedia on every doctrine of the Watchtower. I don't do that anymore. And I won't discuss what my hope is. Why should anybody care what I believe? You come up with your own belief. What am I an expert on what all of this? No. And I'm not going to.
And you're right. There's so much diversity of opinion of people who have left the Watchtower. I'm just fascinated by what I hear from everybody, and how they soft land and crash that land afterwards. I'm just curious about it. But anyway, that's a good question.
That's a good question, though.
Especially on a venue like this, Barbara, people would end up throwing stones at you afterwards. So that's fine.
You know what? Let me say this.
Programs, very interesting programs.
Let me say this. It's subjective. Religion is subjective. Child rising is subjective. It is beauties in the eyes of the beholder. It depends on who you are, what your genes are, how you culturally. That's why you shouldn't get, people like me shouldn't get involved in this. You're right. Stones could be thrown at me. I'm here to say what the Watchtower is doing to people. And that's all I can do. Other than that, who cares what Barbara Anderson believes in? Barbara Anderson believes in anything or nothing. It doesn't matter to other people, really.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just interested in general. Now, the one other thing just about Richard's stuff again that I didn't ask was, so the stuff that you haven't had time to look at and collate maybe and decide what to do with it, or if it is still of value, is there a lot of years of work left to do all of that? And what are the plans to deal with that eventually, all of his stuff?
Well, actually yesterday I was in a big closet pulling out stuff, trying to figure out what to do with it, because I got so many things going on in my life right now that I don't have time to get rid of these things I don't need. Now, some things that Richard had are priceless, and I did this article a while ago, and it's on my website. Okay, it was because of Richard's having every single copy of an organization material that the society put out, that I was able to discern a policy of the Watchtower. It's very fascinating one. I want to write up on this. I told Rick a little while ago about one thing that I need to get on to. there's not enough time in the day, and also be a housewife and clean and cook and all of the things that go with that. It was to do with a scripture and how the Watchtower doesn't use this point. If your brother harms you, remember that? It's 1850 in Matthew. He does something against you, he harms against you. The word against you is not in the New World Translation. And why? The research that I came up with, because of what Richard did, because of what he owned, and I was able to go back to the first time the Watchtower put out something that was regarding the organization. They were inventing an organization started in 1919. And because of that kind of thing, I'm able to see the changes and the ludicrousness which led up just this particular analyzing this one scripture of if they harm against you, you go see your brother. Well, the word against you is not in the New World Translation. Neither is it in half of the extent of manuscripts that are around. And so what has that done to the Watchtower? When they accepted that and left out against you, it opened up a way in each organization for child abuse. Child abuse, unbelievable how something so simple like this, and they require what they require if you see your brother sinning. Not that he sinned against you, if you just see him sinning. That is fascinating. That was only one of a number of things that Richard Curiel, you can't get a hold of things like this to go backwards. He had it all. So the regular stuff, I don't need the old studies in the scriptures. I have plenty of them of my own and what we were able to download off of the internet. But he had 6 copies of this and 6 copies of that. There was a lot of stuff that you didn't need.
The one thing,
if you want it, get a hold of me. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. The one, you never know. You may hear from me. But the one thing that there is probably some stuff there in Richard's stuff that no one else has.
I agree.
That is not even on the internet. There's actually probably quite a bit.
Well, some of it is off kilter, though. I've been enough into some of the files. In fact, this morning I had 6 envelopes full of stuff of his, and I'm thinking, I listened to a tape he recorded from one of his conferences, and he was talking about Michael Servetus. And I'll tell you what, it was a very interesting discussion. But then 2 or 3 other people spoke up afterwards and disagreed with him. He thought he knew everything, but other people said, oh, no, that's not the way it really was. Calvin really didn't do that. And so that's the way with much of his writing. I see the flaws in it because he was really very, very religious at heart. And some of that blinded him to the reality of history. So there's a lot of things.
Somebody, what? By the way, that reminds me of something else, Barbara, that I had heard. I don't know where I heard this. It was something about you, about when you were researching for the encyclopedia, or well, not for the encyclopedia, for the history book. What's the history book called again? What's the history book called again? The newer one?
Proclaim. Jehovah's Witnesses proclaim God's kingdom.
Yes. Now, I think whether you told me this or I heard it you on a program or somebody else. But anyway, the question was, the idea of whether or not, because when you brought up Servetus, it got me thinking about this, the idea of the, what's the right word, a lineal succession, like, for example, the Roman Catholic Church suggests they have apostolic succession, but a succession.
A channel.
What we might call true believers throughout the centuries, that you had been assigned to see if there was such a thing, that you could find this in history. Now, I don't know if you said that or
I said it. I said it. That was my 6-month assignment. 6 months I was on that. There is no channel from Jesus Christ to Russell was the question. There is no channel, and they stopped using the word even in the literature. Carl Adams saw all I had, my evidence and everything, but the requirements for the channel is the important issue here. The requirements were 4 things. You had to have people who believed like Jesus and Russell, which apparently was supposed to be exactly the same thing. But I didn't find anything like that. They got me the best books from everywhere. I thought I would go blind reading and all kinds of theology stuff.
Okay, very good. Thanks for your time.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. It sounds like you're going to be on every 2 weeks or so now. Is that the idea?
Well, until I run out, but I don't think I'll ever run.
Yeah. You sound good. Maybe we'll talk to you again in a few weeks.
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Hey, Brian, this is Rick. We're glad to hear from you, Brian. My goodness gracious, we're so glad to hear from you tonight. Now, don't you be a stranger. You come back and see us soon, okay?
I will do, Rick. Yep. Thank you very much. Yeah, Well,
we all miss you. We had a lot of people asking. We had a lot of people asking about you and what have you, and we all understand what's gone on in your life here in the last few months. So we do understand that. But when you're ready to come back on, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Rick. You bet. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
All righty. Well, Barbara,
Hello?
go ahead. You're on with Barbara. Go ahead.
Hi, Rick and Darren. Hi, Barbara. I know you don't remember me. I just wanted to thank you because 10 years ago, when I left the Watchtower, it was the middle of the night, and I was very flabbergasted with what I was finding out, and we were on a discussion board. And you told me to go to JW Facts, and you also sent me a story about Armageddon taking place in a Kingdom Hall where there was a disfellowship person and a big fat lady who had died, and they put her on the podium, on the stage. And you told me to read that story a few times, and I did. And I got the sense of it that everything was pretty much crazy in that organization. That story really, really helped me. I can't remember the name of it offhand right now. But I just wanted to thank you for being there in the middle of the night when I needed somebody.
Well, that makes me happy to hear that. My philosophy is I want to be useful, just useful. And if I can be useful and did that, then I'm glad.
You definitely did. And thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, it's been an interesting past few hours. There's just so many subjects with this organization that can be discussed. And I probably know a little bit about a lot of the subjects, but I don't know a lot because the Watchtower doesn't permit you to know a lot. And, I complained about, even after I was out of the organization, I complained to the Watchtower by writing the guy who's over Splain. Splain is over the writing department, arguing with him over issues. And, that's what it takes. Right. If you don't like what they're saying, right. And so I did. And it accomplished something. So we find that out about a lot of organizations. Write I said that 2 weeks ago, and it works. So, they have a lot of responsibility, and they're getting hit around the world by organizations. I posted on my Facebook page about Japan, and a woman presented to one part of the Japanese party, a political party, about her being raised as a witness. What an article! She put, they covered, it was translated, and it is a fantastic account of a horrible childhood, because of being a witness. And what they want now is for the parents and others should not make a child accept the religion of the parents. It's fascinating what is happening out there. So, we made our children accept everything about the Watchtower, and frightened them half to death when they were youngsters about Armageddon if they didn't do what was told to them. They're going to die anyway at Armageddon. So the governments are, after all, the Bible even says to respect the superior authorities, that God placed them as ministers. Now, I know we don't take that truly, literally regarding our religion, but it has some basic facts. And they have to interfere with some of the articles I've put out, which come out recently on Scientology, the horror of what people go through in Scientology, and the uproar in the Mormon Church, because they are abusing their members. So Jehovah's Witnesses abuse their members. They don't do anything for their members. They just expect the members to do for them, and then if you don't, they abuse you, and that's wrong.
Well, there you go, Barbara. My goodness gracious, lots of people coming in here tonight. Go ahead. You want to speak up? Say hello to Barbara. I just wanted to say something, Barbara. You brought a little, when you guys were talking about Richard Rowie, you brought a little tear to my eye, really. We love that man. He loved the 6 screens. I mean, I have to tell you, I'm not boasting at all, but he really, I talked to Richard every day. He'd call me at 8:00 in the morning. He would get up at 3 in the morning, and he didn't do internet. He had nothing to do with computers. He only had a fax machine, and he would call me every morning at 8:00. I knew it was him calling, and we'd talk about his program coming up and what he was going to do. And I consider him one of the very first apostates of the Watchtower.
Yeah.
He was really.
He was running the organization. It was his name. I didn't even know apostate from anything when I was in writing. And one person brought his name up and said, "This is a top apostate in the United States who we are battling." And when after I leave, I find out Richard Ruddy lived in a little house in the middle of Salt Lake, Washington, and I mean, he'd accomplished more than so many people did. One man.
Well, when he died, Barbara, I was so sad. I really, really was. It was like sudden. And I thank you for sending me the tapes. We got the tapes of him before he had his TIA strokes. But I tell you what, that was amazing, amazing. You have someone who want to come in? Go ahead, come and talk to us.
Oh, you can hear me.
Hi.
I'm sorry. Hi. Thank you. So I'm wondering, I understand that there's this guy, Alan, who has, Barbara has collected all the best stuff. And so Alan Fernbacher, if I said it correctly, and I'm really sorry, grace to the dead and whatever it is we're supposed to say for people we love. But Barbara, what do you intend to do with all of the library and the knowledge resources and such?
I understand that you basically have collected together all of the stuff that proves our stories. And that guy earlier, I think his name is Brian, I'm kind of interested in the same kind of way. And I had to give up. I used to carry around, as a 42-year-old now, boxes and boxes of Jehovah's Witness bound volumes. So I understand letting go, because I used to think that was like gold. You know, it was all my worth to have that complete library. But for people who wrote things like Alan something, others
Feuerbacher.
who wrote stuff like Rude or Rudd, how do we get to their information or what they wrote? Like, I understand that the 607 and 1914 thing, and then honestly, like, what was Alan about? Because I just know his name and not what he was about. Thank you. I'm just putting myself back on mute now. Thank you.
Well, Alan was one of the greatest researchers on the same par of, and knew him, of the Swedish fellow. I'm getting tired, so I can't remember his name. Alan's writings, I have all that. His daughter, she sent me everything, so it's in. We want to put it on our website, but the problem is today people don't want to read hours and hours and hours worth of material. And you know what the problem is for me is to put all that up on my website while I'm putting all that up, and nobody reads it because it's just so fantastically extraordinary well written, but nobody wants to spend that kind of time searching. You know, the Watchtower is gone. The old Watchtower is gone. Someone told me 2 days ago. He said he had a phone call from a JW man who said, this religion is not the same one that I was raised in. Everything I look at now in this religion is different. And I'm leaving it because it's the old religion, the one I loved, is gone. And so who wants to do this kind of research? I do. I spend hundreds of hours on stuff that's fascinating, but it's fascinating to me from my era when we needed to. We talked about all this stuff. The witnesses today don't talk about all this stuff anymore. They don't even know how to witness. They sit in a chair watching their cart or reading their cell phone or reading the internet, I think. And so, why do we need all this? And it's over.
Oh, can I ask a question? I'm so sorry. I'm really bad at interrupting. I'm so bad. Can I ask you a question? Do you believe we're going to destroy this organization? I feel like you're not going to die. I'm one of those kids who believes in I'm never going to die. And if I get to be, I calculated it. You might die before I do. And then at that point, there's no one who's going to like comfort me because I'm just one of those kids who's out here, you know, hating life with the stuff they did to us. So
well, we're going to put it up. We're going to put it up. My webmaster is going to put up everything Alan has when she has time to do that, because we got it all. We'll put it up when we have time. Hopefully, some people will who love research and want to disprove the old religion that we had. They can do it. That's all I can offer. There's nothing else to do. It's a mammoth task, and it seems to me to be going backwards, and nobody wants to go backwards.
Yeah, but I know that people don't really believe. Like I feel like I'm the only one who still believes in spirit, or no, not even still believes. We weren't even allowed to believe that spirit applied to us. So Barbara, I just kind of want to know. You seem to be like the benefactress, and I would kiss your feet if I could get there. So thank you for all you do. So do you believe in my lifetime? I'm only 42 years old. I aspire to being president and silly stuff like that, because why not? Russell was like pissed off about his wife wanting to vote, and he thought it was just his right. So please, do you believe this organization is going to be destroyed in your lifetime?
I hope so. I'd like to see it, but I don't have a firm belief in anything because it's not the organization I was a part of. It's so different. They're going to be a media organization. You don't go door to door with a media organization. You just get actors and then you do videos and
What if,
with them.
sorry, I have to do that whole amazing thing, and it's awful because then I'm now interrupting you again. But what does it take to get us there? What do we have to do? I'm here the first time I've outed myself as a Jehovah's Witness at all. I would rather not be known as Jehovah's Witness. But in 42 years of life, I don't know, then we turn around and say, I want to do something for this. So what does it take to get rid of this evil worldwide? You seem to be the most knowledgeable person. So
well, we do what we can. Me and many like me and all over the world. I'll tell you, Stephen Unthank out of Australia is doing a fantastic job. We're working on the governments. You know very well that Josh Shapiro said that in his announcement about the arrests of the 4 pedophiles, child molesters who molested 19 children. Josh Shapiro said this is an active and ongoing investigation. Well, that's exactly what we want. Stephen and I worked together on this. We put out hundreds of pages and we gave them to the government. That's what started the grand jury. Stephen and I did hundreds of pages of proof, sent it there. I had 2 agents of the Attorney General's office in Pennsylvania sitting in our living room for hours, questioning me in 2018. And out of that and Stephen Unthank came to this country, went there, and sat in the Attorney General's office and went through everything. Now, I got it the other day where Stephen is talking about this publicly and answering questions about this, and we will be putting out there exactly what we sent to the government. We're going to do this all over the world. We want to see the Watchtower gone because of what they have done.
And do you think it'll happen in your lifetime?
I don't know. I could get hit by a truck tomorrow. So what do I know about lifetimes? So as long as I'm alive, I have knowledge of what they did. And I
missed it, Miss Barbara. I missed it. Did you say yes or no? I'm sorry. My phone is a little bit slow. My computer is not like doing the same as the phone. Do you think it'll happen in your lifetime?
Well, what I said and what you missed was I could get hit by a truck tomorrow. So I don't know how long of my lifetime.
Oh my God! Don't say that, lady.
Well, let's
put myself back on mute. Thank you for
Barbara. She wants you to say yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna speak up and tell her right now. In fact, sister calling in, I'm gonna tell you right now. The Watchtower has no future. There's nowhere for them to go. They are cooked. Take them off the grill. The monkey died. The circus is over. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you think it takes, Rick? What do we have to do so people know this? Because I'm so tired of having to hide.
Well,
I don't want to hide. I want to say, yeah, I'm one of them. That happened to me. So what do I have to do? Like tell everybody so I can just be done with it?
Well, no. What I want
is that the problem? No one's ever.
That could be part of it. That could be part of it. We all have to tell everybody I come in contact with. I mean, I don't overburden them with it, but I tell everybody I possibly can about how evil the Watchtower is, what they do to people, how they shun people. But the word is getting out. And it's not just the apostates. Many, many countries are now beginning to examine the teachings of the Watchtower. And it's not just one, it's not just 2, it's a number of countries. It's Norway, it's Sweden.
I believe we're going to hit the tipping point.
Yes,
we're going to hit the tipping point. I won't have to die like this.
Well, no, you don't know.
Even if God doesn't exist, in the end, I have enough years to outlive this organization and their evil, right?
Well, yes, you do, sister. I have to tell you, a young girl. I think you're on earlier. What'd you say? About 42 years old. So don't.
42 years old. I turned 43 on December 1st. Yeah,
Yeah,
I want to
well-
hear all the positive you have.
All right, but I have to tell you, really, don't you give up. We are seeing a mass exodus right now. More people are leaving the Watchtower than ever before in their history. Now, I have to tell
Can we
you,
change the world?
huh?
Can we change the world? This is a worldwide thing. I don't understand why America hasn't signed the Women's and Children's Whatever Act so that we could talk about the fact that it's not cool for an organization to to have more benefits or recognition than a person. And so I'm just still really, really weirded out by Montana saying that you can do whatever you want.
Let me give you some good news. Let me just try.
I love it. Thank you.
Let me explain to you. I mean, you're 42 years old, so you'd be what we call one of the you're a millennial. You're a millennial. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, am I? Thank you.
Yeah,
I don't know where I am, but thank you. Yeah.
Well, that's where you are. So anyways, but what we have here, now I'm in the baby boomers. I'm an old man. I mean, really, I'm not, but I don't feel old, but I'm 74 years old. But let me tell you right now, I'm going to make you feel good tonight. We have the generation that is now existing is the Gen Zs. Now they are in their 20s, about 22 years old, most of them. And they are not buying this. And the Watchtower needs these people, but they are just distancing themselves. They're not getting the Gen Zers. They are leaving the Watchtower big time. That's their future. Without bringing young people in, it's over. Stick a fork in these guys, take them off the grill, they're done. So the young people aren't believing it. And the older people, well, the baby boomers like me, many of them are still in, but you'll be surprised. Most of the people listening to the 6 screen, sad to say, they're like older people.
Uh-oh.
We're getting younger people too.
I didn't feel like that in the chat. The chat was really kind of happening.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick and Barbara, then?
Yeah.
Can we talk about in the future? This is my very first time, and I'm really kind of nervous. I don't know why I feel so calm right now. But as an ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, I've enjoyed not being anywhere near the organization or any people involved whatsoever since I was 17 years old. And I'm 42 and turning 43 soon. So can we talk about voting? Because I was really not now, but now that I know your channel, I'll come back and I'll look, and I know it's like a biweekly or something like that. Sorry, I'll look. I can do that.
It's every week. Yeah.
Can we talk about voting? Because 1999 is what I heard, that suddenly I was disfellowshipped as a child. I was raped, and they decided I was an adulteress because I didn't have any witnesses. So I went to tell them I had gotten raped, and because I didn't have any witnesses to defend me, they decided that I was raped. I'm sorry, not raped, an adulteress. Because if I told them I had sex and I didn't have anybody to prove that it was not willing or whatever, I don't know, yada, 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 yada. All I'm trying to say is, can we talk about voting? Because I always felt like there was freedom there. And then I learned about this thing about Russell. I guess Barbara's writing a book or whatever, and suffragettes. And these are words that are bigger than my upbringing. And even though I'm really well educated and all the rest of it, having escaped the cult, or religion, denomination, whatever I'm supposed to call it, but I was baptized at 12, and now I'm just in shock. It's only this very week that I found out that J-Dubs can vote. And they could vote since 1999. That means I could vote since I was 19 years old. It's a weird thing because I don't know who I would have voted for anyway, so I don't really regret the time in between. I feel more like the queen, and I'm sorry, she's dead. But whatever, the neutrality and watching and observing. But meanwhile, there's freedom there. And so I'm a bit weirded out by that last little thing because I heard that it would have been wrong if we could prove that they told us we couldn't. But here I am, 1999 till now, and I was deceived believing I couldn't vote. And I'm really pissed off about that.
Well,
I don't even know how to express it.
Well, I can get the fact that you're upset about it, and many people would be, but it's not. Don't listen to what's being said here. The Watchtower is not really saying that you can vote. A lot of countries.
I can't. Sorry, I'm sorry, Rick. What did you? I can or I can't vote?
You really can't. I mean, still,
I can't. Right. Okay. Thank you. Because it's mind blowing. Sorry, I'm listening again.
All right.
I couldn't even figure out what was what. Thank you. So the current thing is still, if we were in, we would believe we can't vote. They haven't changed.
Well, no,
they believe they can.
They haven't. But what happens in some countries, sister? I'll call you sister. But in some countries, what they do is they demand that people vote. I mean, basically, they put a gun against your back and say, "Get in there and vote." So the Watchtower.
So I'm only allowed if I have a gun to my back. I have had a gun to my face, but it wasn't involving voting. But now I want to vote because there was a gun to my face.
All right.
So that doesn't qualify for the Jehovah's Witness.
Well, the Watchtower does. I mean, the position hasn't changed. You cannot vote being a Jehovah's Witness. But in some countries, what they're saying is if they are putting pressure on you to vote, go into the voting booth, and you don't have to vote. Just mark circles all over the place.
Rick, I'm in way more trouble. I'm sorry, brother. I'm in way more trouble than that. I don't believe I'm ever going to be president of the United States. But for some reason, I'm pissed off at this organization. I learned about that Russell thing and him thinking his wife was stupid, or I'm sorry, satanic. We couldn't call her stupid. He thought she was satanic, I guess, because she wanted to be a suffragette because of her sister. Well, I have a sister, and I'm really pissed off about it. And so, I registered to run for the United States of America twice because of this stuff. And y'all are the first time I've ever come out to say I'm a Jehovah's Witness. And so, how much trouble am I in? Can they disfellowship or apostate me or disassociate me? Because they wouldn't take my letter. I tried to deliver a letter. Some brother said earlier about, trying to deliver a letter and the elder wouldn't take it. I was like, that's me too. He wouldn't take my letter. He knows I don't believe that Jehovah's organization is the sole channel on earth. So anyways, yada, yada. So what am I facing according to the Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well, according to the Jehovah's Witnesses, I mean, you're still in good standing? I mean, do you still go to the meetings?
No.
All right.
Are you kidding me?
Okay,
No.
well, no. Okay, well, let's stop there. Now let's just have another thought come up here. I mean, are you voicing your thoughts about the way you feel?
Oh, absolutely. Very vocal. I've been disfellowshipped and ostracized since I was a child. I was baptized at 12. It was weird. I immediately woke up, and I guess other people normally Pew Research, says, whoops, I don't know what that happened there, but Pew Research says that Jehovah's Witnesses apparently put out more atheists than anybody else, and more suicides and more mental illness. But meanwhile, I am stumbling all over the place. I'm apparently the weirdo. Someone the last person who still believes, despite having grown up through stupid cults. And then I'm willing to, and I have already put my neck out there. And so I don't want to talk about my name right now, but when it comes to my little sister, or when it comes to if it ironically happened, what's the whole J-Dub thing now? Are they allowed to even have any freedom of conscience?
Well, no, okay. Well, let's just roll. Let's just go slow here. Let me just try to gather my thoughts.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go.
Okay, Barbara, what we're gonna do? You go ahead. You do your thing, Barbara. Thank you very much for coming on here tonight and being with us. Thank you very much, Barbara. We appreciate your presence.
You're very welcome.
What do you think?
Well.
Are you going to vote, Barbara, ever in the future? Because I don't think I can do it. There's just I can't do it. I want to, but I can't imagine. And that's the thing. I'm only 42 years old. So there's 40 more years at least of this.
Well, we'll let Barbara.
I feel like
we'll let Barbara go for now. She's got to go, so we'll let her go and take care of business. But in the meantime, we'll get her back, and when we talk to her in the next couple of weeks, I'll ask her that question. Barbara, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're going to ask me the question about can she vote? You're going to ask me?
Yes, she's asking you, Barbara, if you would vote.
I don't get into personal what I will do and what I don't do, because I don't feel that everybody has a right to do what they want to do. I don't want to influence people on this issue. I only influence them on harm. If she thinks that this is harmful, then she should do what her conscience says. That's
All right,
all.
Barbara. Well, Barbara, thank you very much, Barbara, and I appreciate you coming on. And I'll be in touch with you in the next week or so. We'll talk about the next program. Thank
Okay,
you.
Rick. Thank
You have
you.
you have a good night. We love you, Barbara. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Well, there you go. So that's Barbara Anderson, and don't you guys ever give up on her, because I mean she really is a woman that has a lot of information concerning what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, okay, so we got the sister still on with us. Can I get a name from you? I mean, you don't have to give me a real name, but the woman that's been talking to us here. What's your name, Miss?
Thank you for calling me a woman. I'm Angela Glass.
Oh, Angela. Okay, we'll go with Angela. Okay, Angela. Well, thank you. You're not afraid to use your name, but I mean, in other words,
No.
voting. What you're asking here, and of course, Barbara was a little reserved in saying how she feels about it. But I mean, I will tell you, I
She's
vote.
gracious,
Yeah, but I mean, and I can
So you
understand.
vote?
I vote. Yes.
Sorry, my phone's delayed. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, I vote. I mean, I know.
It may be personal. Did you vote for that Trump guy? Because I did this whole thing. All the family I have that actually accepted me happens to be Trump voters, and so it's the biggest thing in my life to give up all family by standing apart from them. But I can't do it. I can't say that liar guy. And so I'm sorry. I don't mean to I guess it's a firing squad, and you don't have to. I'm sorry. Can you just redirect this from here? This is your professional thing.
Well, no, I
didn't
mean,
to ask
you asking
vote
me?
for
Are you
Trump.
asking me who I voted for? I mean, that's okay. I have no
Well,
problem.
I just want to know you didn't vote for the liar, because that's the biggest thing. Like that liar guy, I felt like he was coming. My friends, I was raised in San Francisco after leaving that stupid organization, so I was like kind of an orphan. And so in San Francisco, all my friends were certain that Hillary would win. And I'm not a Hillary fan. I'm just like a different person, whatever. We're weirdos, right?
Yeah.
So the basics of it is, the weirdest thing I've ever experienced in life is to be this far gone from that stupid religion, still being ostracized by my family, have no home to go back to. But if they're gonna vote, they're voting for Trump. Are you kidding me? What's going on here, dude? Like, can you tell me, Rick?
Yes.
I heard that there was like a Jehovah's Witness who went to the insurrection. A stupid kid. I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to be judgmental. But a kid decided to believe in this with that whole insurrection thing, show up. And so you have a Jehovah's Witness who's now a part of the insurrection of January, whatever the date was.
January
Is that
6th,
the norm for the Watchtower now?
Well, no,
I'm in like another world. I had a gun put to my head at Thanksgiving, and they were all Jehovah's Witnesses.
Well, Angela, I mean, you got a lot on the plate here. So I tell you what, Angela.
Yeah.
I mean, now where you calling? Can I ask you where you're calling in from? Where you calling in from?
Oh, I'm calling from California, and I don't mind talking.
All right.
again.
Listen. I'll tell you what. We have a woman coming up next. Her name is Linda James, and she
I'd like to listen.
and she's a wonderful woman. I mean, she goes by Aposta Babe, and she would love to talk to you. Really? She would love to.
Angela,
yeah, I'm
Angela,
yes, sir.
Angela, this is Zach. Don't let Rick get away with not answering your question. He just jumped around your question. You know when you hear, right? Don't let him get away with that.
That's bigger than me. I mean, I've never voted, and I'm running for president. How awkward is that?
Well, Zachary. Well, wait a minute,
Rick
Zach.
didn't answer your question.
Well,
you didn't answer her question, Rick. We're listening to you.
Do it.
We're
Put him to the
listening
wall,
to you.
dude.
Well,
put him to the wall, because I'm a little awkward. I'm like, this is weird. How do I say I've done it twice now?
Let's be very.
I'm invisible.
Well, let's be. Angela is very fragile here tonight, so let's go careful with Angela. But before we,
She doesn't sound fragile to me.
Before
she sounds like she asked you a question.
Before we,
she asked you a question, and you have not yet answered it, my brother.
Well, I'll tell you
I
what.
love you.
I will, and we have to love Zach. But Zach, I mean, what if she asked you the question? Who did you vote for?
Well, she asked you. No, she asked you, Rick. I'll tell her. I would tell her, but she just asked you.
Yeah.
Well,
she
yeah,
asked you first.
So I had this daydream that like all the Jehovah's Witnesses. See, I believe that we're all witnesses. Either we witness for him or against him. And I believe there's more witnesses against him now than for him. But I don't know, and I would love to, because I'm a kind of a scientist kind of person. I do design, and there's things of whatever. So, like, is it true that it'd be possible? Like, I had no idea. It was mind blowing. I was 19 years old when apparently I could vote.
Well,
that's the very first year after I could vote that I could have voted. And I'm sorry, the F, does God allow us to curse ever? Because the F, man.
Well,
I could have voted since I was 19. I'm 42 years old.
Angela,
Rick, help me out here.
I'm helping you out, Angela. I'm going to tell you right now that you can vote. Don't you worry about it. Now, but
according to that Watchtower thing, like those kids can vote. I have stepchildren.
Don't worry about the Watchtower. They're all over the map. But you know what I want to say, Angela, is we got to pause. Can you? Why don't you come in? Can you hang on here with us for the next?
I'll do it if you want. Yes.
Well, we got a pasta babe coming on next, and she'd love to talk with you. Oh my goodness, she's a wonderful woman, and she'll be able to answer all your questions. So hang in with us. And Angela's going to come on with a pasta babe. So we're ending this program. We are ending this program right now that Barbara Anderson was on. We really appreciate all the people that came in and answered the questions and asked questions to Barbara. We really appreciate it. So we're going to end the program right now, right here. Angela's going to come on. She's going to talk to a pasta babe that's coming up next. Friends, thank you very much for coming in and commenting tonight on Barbara Anderson, Watchtower researcher, tells all. Thank you. We had a great program, and Barbara will be back in 2 weeks with us. But stay with us, Apostate Babe, your favorite apostate. She's on here next. Stay with us.